chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody. We're just starting the Daily Gun Show. Every night we talk about guns for an hour or so. Just got distracted here reading about robots that eat humans. So we're probably going to start the show out with that, I guess. See if anybody's out there tonight. With the weaponized virus attacking humans, we're getting fewer and fewer viewers. I think the virus was specifically aimed at our viewers, it turns out. So for those people that have survived and are out there, let me know if the volume's working. I think we might have Dead Horse joining us a little bit later. He's got a link. I sent some links out tonight. See if anybody jumps in. Ozzy is out there. Welcome. 12 gauge. So yeah, I was just sitting here minding my business, and then it turns out that there's robots that eat humans, right? So if we go over here to this thing, it's called Eater, because they wanted to give it an awesome name. And it just goes around using biomass to feed its batteries. And they made that thing in like 2015. Energetically autonomous tactical robot, Eater. It's a project by Robot Technology, Inc. Let me put this over here so we can see what's going on. Oh, look, Woods is jumping in. He's human, I'm pretty sure. Never actually met him.
Did you hear about the guy they arrested that was the Harvard guy that was teaching the Chinese to do nanobots?
What?
The guy from Harvard that the Homeland Security arrested a day and a half ago?
No. What are we talking about? This just happened, or this happened how long ago?
No, just a couple days ago. Like within the last, I don't know, days are all blending together. So sometime this week.
I hear you. But
the Homeland Security arrested he's like a bigwig, like head chair of a certain department at Harvard. He had made $50,000 a month for the Chinese and helped them build a lab. He's in nanotechnology.
Well, I was in, where was I? I remember driving around a city, and it might have been Oklahoma City, I think. So whenever the hell I was in Oklahoma City at one time, I remember driving because I remember parking next to this big mural. And for whatever reason, that I can remember that conversation. I was listening to NPR, and they were, was it NPR? I think it was NPR. And they were talking about, I don't know, they had like a half a dozen instances where Chinese were financing all different kinds of science over here to like obscene degrees. Like you say, like just buying everything, a building, all the research they ever needed, like all the materials.
He went to China and helped them build a lab.
So I'm trying to find it here. So Harvard chemistry chairman. So it's not really important. He's not really important. He's just the chairman of chemistry at Harvard.
Yeah, and one of his specialties is nanotechnology.
The Wall Street Journal, is that a decent one, or is that, I don't pay attention, is that a good news source, or is that a bad news source?
Yeah, medium level. I mean,
you have to buy something to look at it, though?
Yeah, you got to buy something to look at it. I have the same problem with the Seattle Times here. I ain't paying nothing.
But it's only news for rich people. It's rich for it's not news for the
Is that the only one that counts? I mean, why are we into this? Because how old are the billionaires? The really, really rich dudes, the Rockefellers and the Chases, aren't they in their 80s? That's where like, fuck this shit up. That's it. Shut it down.
I don't understand that. So you're saying rich people don't have offspring and they don't care about their offsprings?
No, I'm just thinking that some of the billionaires are in their 80s. That's where they're willing to turn off the economy.
I don't fall into that, so I have to be explained better to me how rich people kill things to make money.
It was a bad joke, man. Let's move on.
Yeah. So what about these? So he hasn't really sold nano. I don't know the story because I can't open it So basically, the Chinese hired some guy to do research, and he's also aware of nanobots.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it.
All right, so he was arrested in January for making false statements. They collaborated with China on a $1 million. Or no, that's something else. He stated the purpose of the agreement, which had been a 5-year to carry out advanced research and development of nanowire-based lithium-ion batteries with high-performance electric vehicles. So nanowire, that's not, I mean, is that nanotech? That could just mean carbon fiber.
Yeah, but you were talking about how to make robots.
Yeah, but I mean, does nanowire? I don't think that's a robot. I think that's just, nano is just means small. So that's just using microscopic tech probably. Now there might be nanobots building this. That I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you don't build it with tweezers unless it's a chemical solution that crystallizes or something. I don't know what nanowires are. It says it's a structure, nanostructure, tiny structure with the diameter of an order of a nanometer, whatever the hell that is. So compared. All right, they're not going to help us, so that's going a little bit off track. But anyway, so they're this is from February, so this is recent news, but not like yesterday or something. Or am I just finding old articles?
I thought it was this week.
Okay, so I'm just finding older articles then. So, but that looks like, I don't know what that is. So, yeah, that's a new thing. Have you heard of Eater before, though?
No, I have not.
So it's just from 15, so it's not new, and they shut it down, quote unquote. But it's this guy. No, it's this guy. I can't find a good picture of him. Oh, wait, I should probably look for his actual name. Then click to images. So it just looks like a truck with an arm on it, kind of. Looks like a wagon with an arm on it, I guess. A yellow wagon with an arm on it. But the arm can pick stuff up and swivel around and put it in the back of its little pickup truck thing. And that's where it gets dissolved into its fuel. So it's energetically autonomous tactical robot, Eater. And it was developed a robotic vehicle that could forage for plant biomass to fuel itself, theoretically operating indefinitely. Concept between 3 and 9 as part of DARPA's stuff for the military. And then because of people figured out what was going on, they canceled it, quote unquote, in 2015. So I guess because they had thrown chicken fat into it to see if that would work, and it did work, that people got concerned that it could put a foot in there or your brain or something. And it would probably work because it's using a, here we go, powered by a steam engine built by the Cyclone Power Technologies. So, of course, Cyclone Power Technologies. You want to trust anything that something like that's going to make? Cyclone Waste Heat Engine. Produce power through external combustion of biomass, i.e. combustion outside the engine. So then it would power the vehicle's movement as well as being used to recharge the batteries that run all the sensors in the arm and its brain. So it was programmed to consume certain types of vegetation to convert into fuel. And then it could also pick up other things such as gasoline or kerosene or whatever you could throw in there. As long as it could burn it, it would power its little steam engine. But I guess people are concerned because, of course, you could hook that up to a killer robot, and then you'd have a killer robot that could last forever, basically eating the humans that it kills.
Where do they make that?
Where? What country? America.
Yeah.
America. It was made by DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Agency. Huh?
Everything I've ever learned about DARPA, I learned from E-Honda.
So I learned about that one today, and Like I said, this is what it looks like. It looks like a wagon with some big wheels, and then a little arm on it, and then that arm, and then the little eyeball, and then that arm goes around, picks up, kills somebody, or it probably has another robot help kill somebody, and then it chops them up, or maybe there's another arm that chops them up. Takes a little piece, puts it in that little bucket back there, turns it into fuel or energy. Probably be able to just like put USB ports on it, and then he could charge, he or she, whatever, could charge other robots. Because they could just bring them a human.
They could just change the arm. You've ever seen those ones that can cut down trees?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just thinking for this unit, because robots aren't working by themselves. They're not like biomass fuel, right? That runs around trying to work in a community and work together and communicate with each other. And like, then there's individuals going rogue. Like that doesn't happen with robots. They have that efficient hive communist mind that's frame, right? They can just have one robot that does the digestion like this and creates energy out of humans, and then some other robot can waste its time running around chopping up humans. I'm just thinking that they don't need to have it would be like having the queen brain run around being a drone. Like there's no point. You specialize, right?
Right.
Let this thing do its one job and sit in the back somewhere. Or maybe they might have more than one. It's possible that they'll make more than one of these kind of robots to go around and digest humans. But then I found this picture, and this is another one that goes around. So this picture here is another robot, and it's more obviously designed to eat humans, as you can see. It has eyes and a brain and two big ass arms, and then it basically has this mouth that jumps out of its mouth and has, I'm guessing that's a conveyor belt. So you pick up the human, dead or alive, it doesn't matter in this case because it's big enough to overwhelm even the strongest of humans, and then jam it up into this thing, which is obviously a shredder, and then probably one of them Corporadine steam engines or whatever. But they're putting this one, the way that they're putting some sugar on this, is they're calling it a firefighter rescue robot. So now you're not scared, right? Because it's for firefighting.
So it's supposed to capture.
It's not for human sushi. It's for cooked humans, like human barbecue. Like these people are probably already dead because they're barbecued.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. They're already cooked. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like they're going around just picking up human sushi and throwing it in there. It's not like somebody was sleeping and they scooped them up and ate it that you know of. Instead, they're going to put a little fire truck emblem on it, and they're going to allow it to eat cooked humans that have already been burned. Now, no one's going to question what started the fire, but once there's dead people, cooked dead people, this robot comes along and digests them for robot fuel. I mean, it's obviously exists. It's on the internet, and there's a big ass picture of it right here, basically eating a human. You can even see on this one, they didn't even Photoshop out the cord. So it digests the human, goes to that Cyberdyne steam engine thing, and then there's the cord that connects it to this robot power unit or whatever this red thing is in the back. All these stupid humans like, oh, put my children there next to it. Let my children go look at it. But whatever, we're worried about a disease or something, some kind of virus, computer virus. It'd be a lot easier for the for the robot that digests humans to just go around and get us in our homes instead of we're running all around 6 feet away. Notice how wide this robot is. If three of these were together, how far would the humans need to be?
So did you find any other robots that eat humans, or is that it?
No, but that's a real life robot that eats humans. I could see that being useful on like a Mars or some planet where there's, green life or whatever, plant life. You could send that robot out and it could just nibble. It just nibble and eat, last forever, like on Mars or something. I guess we could find a planet like the Venus. That's the super hot one that's made out of liquid. Because the first one, Mercury, is rock, right?
Right.
So it's Venus that's got like a sea of methane. Drop one of these robots down on there where it, just can sip off some of that methane ocean. I think you could just have a robot live forever on Venus. We have to find all those dinosaurs. Imagine how many dinosaurs lived on Venus. They have an ocean of methane.
Probably that whole society. Hey, Dead Heart, how are you, man?
Yo, 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 can you guys hear me?
Yep.
How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, we hear you. You hear us?
Yep. I've missed the whole beginning of the show, so I have no idea what's going on.
Well, Bob's out there, and Pink is out there, and they're all out there. Hope everybody's doing good. Give us, they're one of the reasons.
Pink, Hawaii, HVS, Bob, wow. Yeah.
Awesome. One of the reasons I do the show every night isn't for ratings or views or any of that stuff, but it's to keep in touch with people. And so I appreciate people jumping in and saying, hey, so give us some insight as to what's happening. Stress levels, state and stress levels, if you want. And that's not necessarily your stress level, but the perceived stress level. For example, I haven't gone to the store very often, but the last time I did go the other day, I'm trying to remember now, like Wood said, time doesn't mean anything anymore. So whenever it was I did go to the store last, it was plentiful. Like everything was plentiful except for everything. I didn't really go down the hand sanitizer aisle, but toilet paper was stacked up to my chest, 7 stacks high or something on pallets. There was pallets and pallets of paper towels, and water was everywhere. So obviously with the first wave of whatever, not looting, but stocking and prepping that people did, there's been plenty of time for, at least out here, for the stock shelves to get restocked. So in that case, and then just driving around a little bit, talking to people I know out here, I would say the stress levels are about 6 or 7. I'm not saying they went down, but they're not going up, even though we're supposed to be in the deadliest week right now. But that's my POV from Arizona. Has anybody got any situation where you're at? Throw it out there, and if you're listening in the future, feel free to leave some comments with that kind of stuff, because again, that's not gonna make money on this show. This is just a way to have us be able to keep this conversation going.
I think I'd have to agree to about a 6. I've gone to the store a couple of times because I've got elderly parents, and of course she has to have eggs and milk, so I'm not letting her go out anywhere. So I went to the store to grab that, and everything was pretty much there. Toilet paper only had like 2 brands, but there was plenty of it. Are we getting to the point where everybody that bought way too much toilet paper and water, they have enough now?
Well, it's not that they needed to consume it; they just wanted to be sure they had a buffer, right?
Right.
So whatever they felt they needed, like me, I'm like, I wanted to. I don't know. I had just bought toilet paper, and for me, when I buy it, like in a million pack or whatever. So I don't hoard it. I just don't like buying toilet paper. I don't feel like going to the store and buying toilet paper every 15 minutes. So I buy it once every couple of while. So I just happen to buy it. But I think that's the thing. Like some people just, they just wanted to feel like they just want to have a full shelf. And then you say once they got a full shelf, they're not looking to fill a closet with it.
What I think that happened, right, is that people have, on average, anywhere, I would say, about a week supply of toilet paper on normal, right? And you're going to buy it in quantities depending on how many people are in your household, right? So if you have like 5 or 6 people in your household, you're probably buying like 24 packs of toilet paper, right, at a time, which might only be a week.
Here's the thing. If everybody goes to work and school all day, and they're doing their business at work and school, and now everybody's doing all their business at home, that's more need, right? Like normally you'd be distributing that a little bit. So are we even paying attention to like how no businesses are buying toilet paper right now? Like there's no movie theaters running out of toilet paper. You know what I mean? There's no movie theaters ordering toilet paper. So they're just kicking their machines from those big giant weird rolls that you see in a bathroom at a place to like regular rolls you'd have at home, right?
I think it was a total artificial panic. I think millions of people saw a certain store where people got into a fight over toilet paper, and it blew up on Facebook and Instagram, and that made people think, man, people are fighting over toilet paper at this very specific store, which we don't know if the truck was late or what the conditions were. But then that made everyone go, hey, these people are fighting over toilet paper. Like, we better get toilet paper tomorrow. and everyone went out and got toilet paper that next day, and then this is what has happened. Like,
or if it was somebody in
it's an artificial thing, yeah.
Yeah, somebody could have been like in on it and just went out in the middle and said, "Fuck you, I hate you," and started throwing fists, throwing punches, and then all of a sudden a fight ensues, or that just happened and somebody happened to be standing there and then just assume that's happening everywhere or something. I don't know what we're talking about specifically, but I'm guessing it's some kind of fight over toilet paper somewhere. Pink is saying that it's all getting ate up there. Now, when I went to the Walmart, it was gone there, but I don't know. I didn't go right way the morning either.
How are people doing out there, Dad?
Okay, like I think it's impacting a lot of small towns worse than what people think, and I think it seems like the small town stores and stuff are being most affected by this, and they're not being able to get deliveries because a lot of companies and stuff are catering to bigger bigger chains and corporations and bigger cities. So I think the small towns, I mean, there's still food off the shelves here. I mean, there's still, not to mention we had an earthquake right during all this mess, and we've been having like daily like 3.0 earthquakes ever since. And so people are still all paranoid about a big earthquake hitting.
I'm not even hearing that in the news at all. Like, I haven't heard, except for you saying it, it's the first I've even heard that there's like follow-up.
Oh yeah, like every single day, like anywhere from like a magnitude 1 up to 3, like every day we're having them still.
Now, what is a 1 to 3? When I was a little kid, I experienced an earthquake, but I have no idea what it was. But I did experience what it's like when the ground.
Like every magnitude is 10 times greater than the previous magnitude. So a 2 is like 10 times greater than a 1, and a 3 is 10 times greater than a 2.
What's a 1? Is that like something happened and you don't know, or like
you don't know? Yeah, you don't know. You got to check the news. You don't know. Like not unless like I felt we had like a 2.3 or something, and I felt that one only because it was the middle of the night, dead quiet, no TV on, no nothing. And I could feel it, and but if you have the TV on and it's like you're probably not going to notice anything below a 3.
Okay, so it's not like you're stumbling or falling down. That's not
going to. No.
Okay,
the 5, the over 5, yeah, that's where the 5s, yeah.
But when they tell you that they're sensing it, then that's more like it makes you wonder what else could be coming, or it's different than when the earth is just leaving you alone and not.
Well, they're basically saying there's 2 possibilities. All these little ones are a build up to one really big one, or all these little ones are going to relieve the pressure and nothing's going to happen, right? So like that's like kind of the 2 possibilities that we've heard from all this, is that we're either going to have a really big one or nothing's going to happen. So to us, it's kind of like a 50-50 chance, right? Like that's what they're making it sound like, even though it's really like, I think it's more like 1 in 1,000 chance or something we're going to have a big one. But, just the way the news is reporting it, you would think that it's a 50-50 chance. Like we're going to have a big one or we're not. So I think that's really made people a lot more panicky and paranoid and buying stuff and stocking up than just the regular COVID thing is, So it's kind of like a double whammy for us here. And that's why I think that all the food and toilet paper and all that kind of stuff still sold out everywhere. I mean, like.
Well, when you think about it, that's all happening at the same time as you got the thing going around, and that's unknown. Anybody who says they know what's going on with that, right, is crazy. So you guys are, at least Salt Lake City, around the corner there is in a big, what do you call it, urban area. I mean, that's a literal city or whatever. So I mean, I could see where, I don't know, rest of the Utah is probably like, whatever. Probably, by not being weird, you're, not going out and doing something super dangerous or dumb, you're probably not going to get it in the middle of Utah. But in Salt Lake City, you're just the same as Denver or, anyway.
2 million people,
Yeah, so that's got to be different when you've got the same potential risk as everywhere, and it's an unknown variable, and no one's paying attention, so you really don't get actual news because everybody's paying attention to the big hotspots. But then you're also having these earthquakes that nobody's talking about. Here's the thing. And you've got the potential, because there's a lot of people that would look down their nose and go, oh, those people in Salt Lake City are all a bunch of Mormon religious crazies. Look at how the crazy Mormon religion is, and they're crazy and they're paranoid, and how their religion makes them prep and everything. You would think that if that was the case, and these people are seriously like chomping at the bit to go nuts and go into bunkers or bomb shelters or grab sandbags and start shooting out the windows, like none of that's happening, of course, right? So the fact that you're getting even more pressure than everywhere else and very little, what you would call like release of the pressure, it's like just all building up, and still, what's the negative aspect? Like you're buying toilet paper. Like that's the only real negative result of it all, right? Or am I overlooking stuff?
I think that like I heard a story earlier today that wasn't well, it was a couple hundred miles from me, but still basically a couple hundred miles to me is almost right next door. But that all the medical supplies were so drained in that area, and that a lady's husband has like eyelid cancer, and she has to clean out his stuff, and she couldn't get any kind of disinfectant to do it anywhere at any store. And they're only treating like serious emergencies at hospitals and stuff like this, so she couldn't like treat her husband's thing. And so she called upon the community to go around, and luckily there were some good guys around there who went and found her some disinfectant so she could clean. But that kind of stuff's happening to a lot of people right now, because rubbing alcohol it's not just Lysol. Like rubbing alcohol and all sorts of just disinfectants and medical supplies and that kind of stuff is flying off the shelf and is hard to be found. And there's some people who kind of who depend on that stuff daily. It's not just like, oh, I need it just in case I get hurt. There's like people who need that disinfectant and stuff applied to wounds they already have, right? They need it right now. Yeah, so I think that's a problem.
Yeah, it is, and it's something that I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just using it as an observation, but it's an opportunity for us all to figure out like, don't just assume that the stores are always going to be full. If you know, especially for something like, I'm thinking of somebody, because in my circumstances, I've needed it for like a certain amount of time, like a temporary antibiotic thing, or like you're saying, like after surgery care or something, not long term. Long term is a little different, but don't just assume that, okay, I'm going to need this for the next 12 weeks, or I'm going to need this procedure. I'll just buy 1 week's, buy it, maybe buy half your time you're going to need it or something. Like maybe in people going forward, people won't just assume that the store is going to be there. Once everybody's got that mindset and they're okay, I'm going to need this for 12 weeks. Let me buy 8 weeks real quick, because I'll save money probably than buying it, a week's worth of whatever the supplies are, bandages or iodine or whatever it might be. Buy the big quart instead of the little squeeze bottles, and maybe we just get a different mindset. My grandparents had a mindset of prepping, and that's from living through hard times. So maybe this will be the hard times that people kind of change their mindsets. And then what happens? People, once they've got that, okay, I've got that mindset, I'm going to have my stuff, the supply chains equalize and figure out how to people are going to be buying things in spurts. Then they won't be buying things every week. They'll be buying things once a month. Once the supply chains figure all that out, we're resilient. We're stronger country, right? Like we're stronger. Now, if something happens to the supply chains, okay, we got a good month and we've done it before. Like we're familiar with it. I think we can come out of this way stronger.
Oh, yeah, and we got to be thankful for our infrastructure, even though some people claim it's been falling apart for years. But our highway system and trains and planes, like the way that stuff is being shipped right now, and like everywhere I'm buying stuff from, like online and stuff, it will be like, oh, like you're instead of 2-day prime, it's more like 7 or 8 or 9-day prime, but they're still getting it to me in like 3 or 4 days. Like,
printer ink, and I figured I'll never see that printer ink, right? And it's on its way. So I'll see it, I think, the end of this week, which, yeah, like you say, I mean, that's not a priority. Pink had a good question over here. This earthquake that you're talking about, who's at fault? Whose fault is this?
It's I think it's Trump's fault. I think he's a good scapegoat.
Because he can't get along with Hillary or something, or because he didn't pass a big enough budget. It wasn't $4 trillion, so the Earth is mad.
He should have seen this coming. Obviously, I think he should have known and reacted differently.
Yeah, is that like whatever, you're not that far away from Yellowstone. Wait, yeah, you're just on the other side of the mountains, I guess, from Yellowstone. So is this like a volcano making?
Oh no, so I'm not talking about Yellowstone. They recently found the world's largest super volcano, basically in the southern Utah Valley. So when you start heading out of Salt Lake, and you're like go by like that Las Cabela's and all that, like down there, they found the world's largest super volcano. Supposedly, it's supposed to make Yellowstone look like a firecracker. And this one is supposed to be more likely to go off before Yellowstone does. So, and then like right after that news came out, it was like a week after that news came out, that big earthquake hit. So,
Well, that one lake is fake, right? Or is well, there's the Salt Lake, but then that other real lake, like freshwater lake, the big one, is
the
fake.
Utah Lake,
Stand up, right? Like that wasn't there really. So
Yeah.
that's lucky they put that there, because otherwise, if that wasn't there to provide like a cooling effect, like a heat sink, then otherwise that volcano would have poked up already. All that lava would have come up. It gets cooled off by that lake, probably. Hawaii is going to get mad because you said super volcano, so now he's going to have like some kind of volcano fight, a volcano challenge.
Oh yeah, see, like you can't compete with Hawaii because their volcanoes never stop. It's just a constant thing, right? Like it's
Their volcanoes poke out through the ocean. That's a pretty big volcano.
yeah. Well, he pretty much lives on the volcano, so like yeah, you can't really compete with that.
What's hardcore is when you live on the edge of the volcano, but then you build your balcony or whatever, your like porch up there, and then on the edge of that porch you put one of them. You seen those swimming pools where they go out and then, well, that one movie they have a glass bottom, but I'd be satisfied with just a swimming pool that kind of goes out and has one of them invisible edges, but you do it on both sides. So like one side of the pool goes over the volcano, and you can just go swim to the edge of the pool and look down into the lava. And then the other side of the swimming pool goes out and looks down the pleasant side of the volcano where it's nice and you see the ocean and stuff. So then half the pool would be warm and the other half would be kind of cool. You could kind of just swim back and forth.
I've always wondered what they do in Hawaii, like how they go camping. Like, do they just go look for some lava to like roast their marshmallows and cook their hot dogs, or what?
You don't have to make a fire. You just take like a pickaxe. You just camp wherever, and whenever you want like to cook or whatever, you just poke a hole in the crusted over lava, and a piece of the bubbling hot lava comes up, and it's like your fire. It's a pain in the butt when they want to like bury a tree or something, or like plant a tree or bury some dog poop or something, but it's good for when they want to make campfire.
With basically having like a built-in metal foundry, like it's always puzzled me how like they weren't more technologically advanced and all sorts of metal weaponry and like stuff like that. They basically have built-in foundries. Like
you'd have to get the metal there, but they could probably get all kinds of metal ore just out of the bottom of the ocean, right? Like all around a volcano is going to be tons of like crazy good minerals and stuff.
How is it going in Washington or in your neck of the woods, I should say, I guess.
My neck of the woods, what?
Yeah.
Everybody's doing pretty well. I mean, we've got some, if you can believe the governor, don't get me started on Inslee, but the flattening the curve, we're really doing it. We sent 400 of those ventilators back, and projections are that we're going to probably be okay. They did close the school year, close the school for the year. We're done. But I think everybody's doing pretty well. It seems like everybody's following directions. I've seen a bunch of news reports of like the flying around with drones and just showing like how much people aren't places, like downtown Seattle being barren.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that all over the world. It's all these places that normally have, hundreds of thousands of, if not, thousands of people, and they're all completely barren now. Was it John Z in New York the other day?
Yeah, John Z posted pictures from New York the other day of it being barren.
Yeah, wasn't he in like Times Square or something?
It looked like a busy place. I don't know where. It looked like downtown New York to me.
Stores and stuff, yeah. That wasn't like apartments or whatever. It was stores and commercial. But you would figure like all the places that are like restaurants and bars, but then all the places that are should I say, like offices and then industrial, not industrial, but commercial uh, high rises and stuff. Like there's no, except for maintenance and stuff, there's probably not a lot of people there at all. Probably doing like, well, I don't know. Are they allowed to do stuff like remodeling and that kind of work? Like do plumbing work? This is a perfect time to do all kinds of plumbing and AC work and stuff like that, right?
I don't know. Working on ventilation systems with this stuff being like airborne and like I don't know.
Well, that's, I guess I'm saying. Well, and then they just don't probably want people out doing stuff because then that's a potential like, oh, I cut my hand, I got to go to the emergency room. I broke my arm, I got to go to the emergency room. You know, if you're just doing normal yard work and stuff. But like I say, just having an empty building, like this is a perfect time to work on an elevator or paint like a stairway or something where you can. I mean, it's unprecedented. You never get this much time with people gone, which is, you know,
But then people end up going to the
what are they doing? Everybody hidden.
like my brother works for Lowell's, and he's perfectly willing, to help you if you have an emergency, if you need to fix something. But it may not be the time to get mulch and paint your second bathroom because you're supposed to stay inside. That all that shit can wait.
Yeah, but you're staying inside. Why not redo your bathroom? That's the goal. Like, go do something.
Yeah, but you don't have the paint. You're going to go out and go to Home Depot and Lowe's and whatnot.
Aren't those stores open?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just don't want you like going there for no reason. But if you're going there to buy paint, that's a valid reason.
Well, I went to Home Depot the other day, and it's the same with all the stores here now. They're only letting 25 people in one of those, even a big store like Walmart or Home Depot at a time. So they're waiting for someone to leave to let one person in, and you're not allowed to go in a group at all. So you can't bring your like wife or kids or anything like that. Just one person, and and it's just one person at a time, and you're supposed to stay like 6 feet away from everyone inside the store. And like it's weird, and you're supposed to wear a mask, and yeah, like it's that's how every place is here now.
Are you guys seeing lines on the ground? Like in the grocery store, you can only go one direction to keep everybody from crossing each other?
Yeah, oh yeah. And even outside when you're waiting to get in the store, they have X's painted for, I'm not even joking, about a mile, like wrapped around the parking lot for people to stand to wait in and get into Home Depot. And there was a line like around the parking lot for people to get into Home Depot.
That artificial throttling, though, like there wouldn't need to be a line normally. They're just creating the need for a line by making only 50 people go into that giant store.
Yeah.
And making people go in one at a time. So that means if you're going in there with your contractor, you're going in there with your wife, you're going in there with your kid to help you carry stuff, then that's 3 people in line. So that's 3 people in that store that are not allowed to talk to each other, even though they're there together. But that's 3 people. That's one party of 3 people. You know what I mean? Like that's the store's only making the same, $50 or $500 or whatever it is. But they got to keep all them other people out there, plus all the people like me. Hell, if I'm going to Home Depot through all that, right? Screw all that. So that's got to be that'll end though. This is, I don't know. We won't get into, I guess, conspiracy stuff unless you guys want to, but let's get back into the quiet part. I've heard some stuff about, since so many people are not out running around and doing stuff, that everything's quieting down and they're able to notice it on sensors and pollution readings and all these different things because so many machines are turned off, that they're able to just experience the planet a little bit differently. Well, a lot differently, I guess, dramatically differently, depending on where you are. I don't see that in Tucson. We have artificial prohibitions already on, there's infringements on what lights we can use because of the real big telescope part of the world. So it's already really dark here. But I'm wondering, like I noticed Muscle Dog was talking about Vegas being dark. And it's freaking him out because Vegas is never dark. It hasn't been dark, I guess, for decades. Kennedy or something, they turned him off, but like Vegas doesn't go dark. So things like that. Can you imagine being places where it's drastically different? Or have you guys heard anything about that kind of stuff?
I've heard about them being able to find like more shipwrecks and stuff of these certain ships and actually see them from the surface because the pollution's already cleaning up in certain common boatways, right? Those common traveled boatways. And so these archaeologists, divers, or whatever are able to do stuff that they normally weren't ever able to do, and like research stuff because there's not the same amount of traffic and stuff. I was just reading an article about that today, how they found like a whole new shipwreck they never would have found unless if it wasn't for this, because it was like such a common travel like boatway.
Yeah, you about that sediment and stuff that never probably settles because one of these boats comes along and then the next one comes along and then the next one. They're not keeping their social distance, and then the sediment can never settle. Interesting. What about a place, we know Z, old host of this show back in the olden days, in the before times, and there's some little, like a croissant hanging out in the water, dry Hawaii somewhere. There's like, just like a croissant at the top of a volcano pokes out of the water like that. So they go to the middle of that volcano that's inside of that croissant, and they look around, they snorkel around there looking at the fish. So imagine someplace like that where probably every single day, right? There's people that go out there and look at them fish. Like, imagine them fish. Like, what the hell? There's not all them weird fish looking at us from above, like those got to be changed.
Well, hunting too. Banned all the hunting, like the hunting here. You can't go in the forest at all.
You're exactly right. I was reading another thing today about these pandas they've been trying to get these two pandas to mate in this zoo for 10 years, right? And unsuccessfully for 10 years. And now that the zoo's been closed down for 2 weeks, what happened? They have it like on their webcam or whatever. The pandas started doing it.
Yeah, because they didn't want people going by and being weird at them or smelling or whatever it was. Yeah.
So all it took was 2 weeks to just leave them alone, and they did their thing.
Imagine being a critter who has like, what, 1 million times more smell than us, and having to be at a zoo and have a bunch of humans walk past them all day long. That's got to be like,
oh, that's got to be terrible.
Weird. Yeah.
We got to stink to them.
Just the perfumes and the foods and the cultures, like how many different kinds. Everybody's got their own weird sets of smells. Everybody's got their extremes within their whatever. So yeah. Oh, well, I can't even imagine.
Are we going to have a gajillion more deer next year?
No.
Nobody.
I mean, that's a good one. I would think we'd need experts on, because you've heard of chronic wasting.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no efforts, I mean, when you shut down the economy, everybody thinks about like, I don't got my Xbox, or like, I don't have my Cheetos flaming hot chips or whatever, but there's a lot of stuff not happening. So there's not people opening and closing gates potentially, doing range management. There's like, I don't know, I can't even imagine, but there's efforts that take place to stop things like chronic wasting and stuff to travel. And if none of that stuff is going to take place, we could see all our game animals get really hit. Or on the other hand, thrive like you're saying. But I think at the same time, if it's completely unregulated, I don't know. I mean, do we need to be there for them at this point? It's not like they actually have nature anymore. They've got forest preserves. So without us tending those forest preserves, are they truly able to be wild anymore?
Yeah, fishing too. They ended fishing here too.
There's the poaching's gone drastically up though. It's like so much so that they put out a plea here to, for people not to do it and don't go just out and poach animals. And there's other, things to do if you need food and stuff like that. So, but I know, I suspect in a lot of rural areas, poaching's probably skyrocketed.
Oh, I bet so.
It's a big different thing. Like, I grew up where it's all soybeans and corn and stuff. So deers are like the size of cows, and you just get up in a tree and you get drunk and you shoot down at the deer that's biggest that walks underneath you, or you put a salt lick down and there's 8 people shooting at a salt lick, and it's harvesting. It's not hunting at all. And the deers are massive, and they taste like cow or whatever. You come out here in Tucson or Arizona, southern Arizona at least, and the deers out here that are native are like the size of a big German shepherd. They're totally different, and they're out in the middle of a thing, totally timid and scared like antelopes. So you don't just walk up and shoot one. You have to really effort, and they're different. Mule deers are different than whitetails, and they're different in the different terrains and stuff. So like Netflutter's saying that he's seen a lot of roadkill. Like I can imagine out east where there's those corn, the corns and soybean fields where deers are a pest, and they're maybe able, I don't know. I'm sure farmers are still doing their thing. There's no way they're just like, no, I'm not going out into my farm and doing my farming. Like, there's no way, right? So they're still out there shooing the deers away. But I'll bet you there's, like I say, we don't have natural lands anymore. So if there's just deers running around eating all the corn they want, yeah, maybe they are exploding in population out there.
I think your wasting disease is a great point, but I also like this point too. There's going to be a lot of deers in the roads, and like overpopulation is going to be a problem.
No, I could totally see that. Exactly.
Well, I know, but they do the studies, right? And say, okay, and that's how they know how many tags to give out every year, right? So they're just going to give out more tags this coming September or November, whenever your deer season is.
Yeah, but well, it'll be weird. It'll definitely throw a mix because there's never enough hunters normally, right? So it might take them 2 years to knock them down or something. Who knows? Unless they open the limits, they might say, "Is that what you're saying? Open the limits?"
Oh, or they definitely could, or they could, might do double tags,
But on the other hand, think of all the new shooters that came on board. So there's all kinds of discussions out there about the number of sales, and most everybody I think is in agreement that a majority of those sales that are happening are new shooters. Not very many experienced gun people are like, hey, this is the best time to go hang out in line to buy a new gun that I don't need. So if those are all new gun owners, how many of them are going to be interested in going hunting? Especially if the only thing they could buy or the thing that they were familiar with was a bolt action rifle, or maybe where they lived, that was the most appropriate thing or something. And now they got this bolt action rifle. What do you do with that? Or they bought an AR and they start looking, what do I do with this? So they look at the right source, like Red Horse or somebody, they're going to go, oh crap, I can go hunting with this. And maybe we'll see a bunch of hunters come in and help out with some of that, hopefully overpopulation. I'd love to see I don't want chronic wasting. I'm just as scared of it because out here we have such small populations and they're kind of isolated on hills, by themselves on mountain ranges and stuff. So chronic wasting can come in and just take them out. Back east or something, I don't know what it's like. It's got to be different, and it's got to be different in like Nebraska too, right? So, I'm just aware of that. But yeah, I'd love to see, so many deers that it becomes like a thing again, and hunting is like sort of a rite of passage that some people pass down in their family or whatever and appreciate it and all that. That's the ultimate, I think.
And there's other things other than just deer. So I know Texas has had the hog problem eating their crops, and like those hogs will even eat baby deer and destroy the natural animals there and stuff, right, down in Texas. So with all this stuff going on, is there less people out there hunting animals like invasive species, basically like hogs and stuff like that? Are there less people out there right now keeping those things down? And
I just don't see anybody in Texas like, I was going to go hog hunting, and then like, nah, because of the virus. No, maybe one guy out of 6 doesn't, but you know what I mean? I think they're still going hunting. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, probably. You're probably right, because they're not going in like, but if their hunting experience is like going with a bunch of buddies together and all that, like, right. I don't know, like, I don't know.
The guys from Dallas or like Austin are probably not going hunting, but the guys like Clover that are just, like that pig is on my land bothering me. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're still going hunting.
Yeah, Hawaii Volcano is right about that.
So this one, our new gun owners will go on YouTube looking for videos confirming that they bought the right gun. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think he's 100% right about that.
Oh yeah, and
I think a lot of gun owners, they buy the gun and then they go to YouTube to try and satisfy their decision for what they got. They don't go to YouTube first.
Yeah, and that's the sad part. And I got frustrated with this a long time ago, and then I gave up on it a long time ago. Also, they're going to find people that tell them their gun is perfect, so they'll get that confirmation bias. Is that the right word? Like they'll be done. They'll be satisfied, and it'll be in concrete. This was the perfect decision, and whatever you say is you're wrong, and you're showing me how wrong you are. That's in that respects, I think it's tough to, back in, I don't know. That's something actually that I've been wrestling with here as I've been doing the 2A history project is, what's the point of it or whatever. And part of the point of it is what we just are kind of brushing on there. I think that the way I'm seeing it, there was an evolution of guns. They went from flintlock to bullets to revolvers and semi-autos, right? And the guns themselves went from wood and metal and plastic and wood, and then plastic and lighter metals, and then all kinds of plastic and lightweight stuff. So as the guns change and the materials change, the way that you shoot them has to change. Like you don't shoot a musket the same way you shoot an AR. So that also started to change. So in the beginning, it was like, here's your gun, go use it. You know, if you look at recipes from the old days, it's like, here's the ingredients. Now go fuck yourself. Like they don't really help you. Back in the old days, instruction was different. So then as you get closer, you know, to now, as you get further in time, the development of training and everything changes. And eventually there becomes like people pay attention to training. By about World War II, they actually pay attention. They figure out, you know, that if we train everybody the same way, it's more efficient or whatever. And then as soon as you start doing that, you get different trains of thought or different positions. You know, the same training doesn't apply to everyone. So you get specialties and stuff. And when all that stuff started to happen, you start to see like everything military surplus. You see these people from World War II start to retire and have the same skill sets that they had 5 minutes ago. And they're got people, you know that they've got the skill sets. So they're asking them to share it. So then you start to see development of shooting schools. And you see there's competition sports happen. So people are able to become superstars of shooting, like, you know, feats of achievement, like, you know, shooting skills or whatever. So for all these different things start to happen. And then you get reputations. You get people that, you know, have done it for a while. And so you get things like your Masada and your Clint Smiths and your gun sites, right? You get your schools. And then all that stuff kind of happened in the 80s and 90s, it all happened. And then in the 2000s, the internet comes along and we have the assault weapons ban. And then the end of the assault weapons ban in 2004, and then you get broadband and all these people are online. You get millennials who are just starting to use computers and shit. Well, maybe not 2004. The millennials are maybe buying their guns, but this next generation is just being born when we're all going online and figuring out how to talk guns online. And these guys who have the actual reputation, the guys that legitimately did the stuff that made the training and made the techniques and figured out how to use these new guns, like they established themselves in magazines and in books. And then as the internet created, it acknowledged those people. But now what we're seeing after 10 or 20 years of internet evolution is those people aren't there. They're not either alive or they're not present online. So their immediate influence isn't present. And so you get the echoes and the people that are trying to, keep their information around, but you start to see everything start to get watered down and you start to see less and less respect or awareness or whatever the word is given to the people that actually did and created and like I say, shared their stuff in print. And you get to see these people now coming back from wars and from different area, different experiences, either military, law enforcement, or other experiences, even just professional training at this point. And then you get all their experiences in there. So there's no way for these new shooters to go to authorities. I guess that's what my long way of saying. As a new shooter, I can't even imagine. There are no authorities for them to find because everybody's got their own definition of what authority is. And the authorities themselves are very few already because those guys are that old or whatever. So then you just get the people that the authorities trained, and that's a bigger diverse set, and they're not necessarily hardcore online. And then the people that are online that they're going to find are going to be all confirmation bias. Oh yeah, that thing that you bought, that garbage plastic look-alike thing that in real life with real awareness is a copy of a design that they got from a real company years ago. And, it was marketed and sold to a bunch of new people that have never paid attention and just are looking for ergonomics and color and weight or whatever. Like they're looking for width for whatever reason. And, this caters to that. It's going to be tough. So only from the perspective of if there's a right and a wrong, or if there's a best and a not. So I think what we're going to see is just, I don't know, like some kind of weird hodgepodge, a cloud with like areas of it. We're not going to see points like we used to see. We used to see, this school or that school. We're just going to see some kind of weird blend of everything all the time. And you're just going to either, tend towards what that school used to teach or what this school used to taught. And it's just going to turn into some kind of homogenous thing. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys want to attack any of that. that you tracked all that. But that's something that I've been efforting. I appreciate the time to be able to try to say all that out because it's something I've been figuring out as I'm creating the 2A history project, trying to figure out how to get all that across visually or with, on paper.
I don't know how you do that on paper or visually.
I'm thinking timelines or something, and then some sort of using some other sort of a lines or something, or to draw relationships between people. Something like what a bulletin board in a mystery show or something, some kind of thing where the police are trying to put together the crime and they've got like 16 different pictures with all kinds of cords going between them. That's pretty much what I'm trying to figure out here.
Or like a family tree, like how somebody relates to the other coach. Like this one learned from this person who taught these people.
Exactly.
So if training gets a little homogenized and whitewashed a little bit, does that make it less intimidating for new shooters to come into them?
I don't know. I think of like Krav Maga, that's like a mix, right? It's like not quite karate and it's not quite like Taekwondo or something. It's not quite boxing. It's sort of, hodgepodge, and then it became its own thing after a while. Maybe we'll see something like that. And because right now I think what you've got, and I'm still trying to figure this out, but if you look at the organizations that exist for shooting, like the shooting sports or the Olympic sports and things like that, they all come from things like cowboys or police, right? But as you go forward, what if you just want like steel or what's this steel challenge? I went to a steel challenge one time where it was machine guns and steel. So it was just like pistol caliber sub guns shooting at steel. And it was actually a really cool competition event because there was nothing to tape. Like you could just shoot it, score it, and the next guy would shoot it and score it and shoot it and score it by, if you hit or not, I guess. I forget the rules. It wasn't that big it was just a quick little Saturday thing. But that kind of thing was super fun to watching a bunch of people spend a lot of money shooting 9mm at steel, for brief little bursts like that. It was super fun, like busting through a door and shooting at a bunch of steel. So, is that what's going to be the future? Something that's nonsense? It's just something that, exists for the sake of having a competition and going through, to test skills or something, but not necessarily, a remnant of cowboy or World War II or I don't know, CCW even, like, just to do something to do
like
it.
John Wick. It's gonna be like the John Wick competition. People are gonna have to do barrel rolls and stuff. Some competitions are already like that, man. I don't know if like some of them are already like that. Like when you hit this point, you got to do 3 rolls, and then
like if they start putting a style attribute to the competition, so it's like IPSC because they're already gaming it. Like that's that's all about how fast you can do it, how efficient you can get around a corner, like when to do your mag change so that you get a better score than the other people, right? You put in a style, so now they have like how they look while they're doing it, and I could totally see that. You could totally see like what's that guy who taught John Wick and all them other people, them Hollywood people? You could see that guy, putting
Taron Butler, right?
Yeah, have like the Wick competition or something. The Wick, there's got to be some clever way of making it, but yeah, where it's all about how you look when you're doing it. It's all like an Instagram type of competition or something, right? Like a male, what was that called? Like a postal match, except an Instagram postal match or something, where it's like, yeah, your score matters, but your score, you have to qualify, but it's all about, what people say on Instagram or something. I could see it going to something.
It's like ice skating, right? It's not necessarily what tricks you do. It's like the style you do it in, right? Like that's how they're judged, their outfits and their style and looks. It's not just the tricks they do, right? So I could see that.
Honestly, I can see that going forward because we don't have wars and we still want to play with guns. We still like guns. There's still some skill and some, like same thing as racing or whatever. Like racing around in a circle is part of it, and racing around in a circle faster than everybody else is part of it. But being able to accomplish that with the like Murphy's Law of this machine with a bunch of parts working against you and like not wanting to work, it doesn't want to be running at 1800 RPM or whatever. Like that's the real challenge, is keeping your machine running. So people can dismiss guns as being violent or, some kind of crazy dreams of the past or whatever, or paranoia. But yeah, if they're getting out there, like there's this one called Cola Warrior that the guys from ATS or ATF up in Kingman, Arizona do, where they run around and drink soda to get like the sugar rush and to get the, whatever you call like the sugar shakes, so that they impose a level of whatever confusion and stress to the shoot by making you eat like a whole bunch of peeps, those marshmallow peeps, and then drink soda. Like you have to drink a 2 liter thing of soda while you're shooting. So just fun like that. Like nobody's gonna. It's gonna be really tough to suggest that's super. It's hard to say what that is. That's just people going out and having fun and shooting. And then, like I say, the skill of it is like you're saying with the ice skating. It might seem like it's all dancing and farting around, but then there's also the ice skating part of it. So even if it's not figure skating or hockey, you still got to have that level of skill in order to be worried about the dancing or your dress or whatever it is. So I think we could see all that stuff happen in guns, right? There's that opportunity for it to happen in guns, and all these new gun owners, they probably aren't like fixated on World War II or worried about Vietnam or looking forward to the Boogaloo. They might just want to go shoot. Like, what's that thing? I'm drawing a blank. The one where you shoot shotguns, but it's all different. Those shooting clays, or where is it where you just walk and there's like stations, and then it's all different kinds of clays. Like sometimes they're going away from you, sometimes they're on the ground, sometimes they're going towards you. Is that sporting clay?
Yeah, sporting clays. Yeah.
So maybe they find out that the shotgun they bought is dangerous and lame, but it's not really a war gun. And there's this thing called sporting clays that grandmas shoot, and it's just a hoot, and it costs you $25 on the weekend, which is nothing for them. And they get out in the fresh air, and it's not dangerous, and it's not real loud. It's super fun, and I mean, who knows what we're gonna see. Best draw on the range while pushing a baby stroller. I've seen people push around their rifles and stuff in baby strollers, so that's not out of the question. It's not too far fetched.
And they get points for what song they picked as they come out.
Oh, there you go. What's this saying? The entire world is at war. Not all wars are kinetic. What does that mean? Kinetic. Starting to end?
Yeah. Was he saying not all wars are linear?
I don't know. Kinetic means like storage of energy, doesn't it?
Right.
Well, relating to motion. So depending on movement for its effect. We've been at it for an hour. We started out talking about the killer robots. So, Dead Horse, have you heard about Eater, the energetically autonomous tactical robot from 2015? Which somehow I totally didn't even know about.
Nope.
So this is what it looks like. I'll eventually find it. This is what it looks like. This yellow thing looks like a wagon with an arm on it. And the deal is that it was designed by DARPA to go around and forage for plant biomass to fuel itself, theoretically operating indefinitely. It was a concept in 2003 to 9, and then DARPA made it. And in 2015, people were worried because they threw chicken fat in there, and it lived off of chicken fat, like it powered itself off of chicken fat. They were worried that you could throw human pieces in there, and it would be able to eat humans. So they, quote unquote, ended the project. So it uses a steam engine created by cyclone waste heat engine, which is a steam engine powered by biomass combustion, and that was made by Cyclone Power Technologies. So, what do you think?
So it runs off of animal fats, basically, right? It can eat living things and run off their fats.
It's designed like it would go around and basically pick up a piece of stick or something or a leaf and then put it into that back part where this like funnel is in the back part of the wagon. So it picks up a stick and it throws it back there, and then it turns into fire, and then that heats water, and that heats its electrical diodes or whatever, gives it its power for the arm and for the drive around. But I guess, yeah, I could pick up a piece of chicken fat and put it back there and still burn it and eat it. So that means if you put like your eyeball there, or if it picked your eyeball out of your head and it would stick it back there, it would burn your eyeball and eat it.
So what's the purpose of it other than driving around and eating things?
I think it was, I'm guessing it's for like a Mars. Like if they went to like a planet like that had plants on it, they could just set this robot down and it could just live out there doing its business, eating off of little sticks and stuff. Or maybe it's to stick it in like Canada where nobody lives, and then they can just not have to go plug it in because it'll just eat, garbage from Canada, like whatever's on the floor in Canada. It'll just put it on into the bucket there and burn it. I don't know. It doesn't really
Like
say.
I could see it, like if it was something little, like a vacuum cleaner in your house that like the dirt it sucked up would powered it, or I could
That would
see
be
something like that. But
like
like
a Roomba that eats your skin, because most of the dust in our house is skin, right?
yeah,
That's a good point. Or all this dog hair. That's good. It would smell horrible though if my Roomba was going around sucking up the dog hair and burning it. It'd be the worst smelling Roomba ever.
You gonna show them the other one?
Yeah, I went to go find this video that's going to get me copyrighted real quick. Can you give me the whole thing? You're only going to give me the first part? Lame. Oh, here we go.
Can we use that?
I'll do the second one while I'm farting around over here. So the second one is, this is the picture for it, where this robot is grabbing this human who's sleeping by his neck and about to throw him into this conveyor belt mouth, right? And they decided this was a good idea, but in order to hide it, they call it a firefighting robot. So they suggest it's for taking burnt humans and putting them in there. And I'm assuming, since I didn't read the whole thing, it also burns them and uses that as fuel. But it's using the burnt humans after a fire to camouflage the whole carnage. Because no one's going to be, they're going to be looking at the fire.
first thing I thought it was like it was going around picking up drunks, like a drunk tank or something.
How do you know? And then it could be like, don't worry. And then it's, yeah, exactly. Paint it like a police car. And then it just goes around picking up people. This person's on the marijuana. This is a marijuana vagrant. And then you think it's going, it's putting you in a little chair back here or something. And it just goes back to the police station and there's the wire. It just plugs in that wire to a bunch of other robots and they just power off a USB all night. In the morning, this yellow one is low on batteries because he's been powering up all the Ed 209s all night with USB cords. So he goes out and looks for more quote unquote drunk humans. The part they don't show you is they've got like a free beer stand. We put that up in a park for free beer. And then as soon as people get drunk, they eat them. All right, I'm going to look for this other one real quick and see if I can get more than just the 7-second punchline of it, because that doesn't make as much sense. But this will get me copyrighted and then we'll end the show real quick. So thanks everybody for showing up. And this is a way to get copyrighted. Get your show shut down. Can you hear it?
I can't.
No? Let me try it again. Is that any better?
I still can't hear it.
Yeah, all right. Copyrighted then. Let's see. I got a new blue gun in the mail today. Probably start a holster for it this weekend. Hey, I didn't ever think about it, but that little one I sent you is sort of a blue gun. You could use it for making tiny revolvers. I thought it was a gun collecting buyback robot. That would be interesting. Send like a little robot on tank treads like that to people's houses door to door. And then when they open the door, like buyback robot, gun buyback robot. And then if they're dumb, they'll put their guns into its mouth And then you have it just run over to your house and drop off the guns and go to the next house.
So I got a serious question. So let's say 6 months from now, or a year from now, or the time frame doesn't matter, but let's just say coming up here, all this stuff going on passes, right? It goes away, everything goes back to normal. Do you think all these people who went out and bought guns and all that are going to be like, oh, now I want to sell my gun, and then there's going to be a flood of guns on the market, which is going to drive down prices. So there's going to be basically a whole bunch of cheap, almost unused guns out there on the market coming up here.
I mean, first, Woods, you can answer the question.
I think clearly, but also we've gotten we just got a bunch of allies that until they were challenged, they weren't like the non-gunners we always talk about. They stepped at least one step towards our side by buying that gun. And then a lot of people aren't going to bother reselling it. They'll just like put it in a shelf and never think about it again. But I do think there's going to be a lot of guns that we can get for pretty cheap, pretty quick. 6 months, something like that.
I was going to say, I don't know if I think we've seen that happen before. And then I was going to ask, did we see buy or sell offs after? I think more I don't think anybody who tells you is wrong. Like, how do we know, right? Because I don't see NSSF. They're doing things that would be interesting for NSSF to do. But I think what we might see more of is your people that bought like 3 ARs extra or something, and then decide I'm going to get rid of 2 of them and buy an AK. Shuffling. I think you'll see people that either already had extra and then decided that this is a good time or whatever. So I think we'll see shuffling of gun owners more than, like, I agree with Woods that people that bought just one. I don't at least historically, I don't see those people running to the store to sell it. They once they've gone through all the work, especially if they went through some effort to get it, I think they're willing to just stick it in a locked box because they're probably scared of it, right? They'll put it in a locked box in a basement or a closet or an attic or something. Maybe give it to their brother-in-laws or their sisters, that kind of thing. Who they are, the gun people they know. Maybe in the States they can. Maybe that's a thing. Put out a thing like, what would you do? I was going to say a ribbon, but that might be stupid already because ribbons are old. But like some sort of a safety pin you could put. Maybe we could put like a clip on our door, like staple a clip to our door. And then if you see that clip, you know that that's a safe place to leave your guns. Like, this is a safe gun owner's place. This is a safe place for guns. And now if you bought guns, you don't like them anymore, or you bought too much ammo, it's a safe place you can leave your guns and ammo. You'll never get them back again, but it's a safe place you can leave them.
I like it. I know about a dozen people that bought guns for the first time within the last month.
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm a big advocate of be part of the conversation and stuff, because I don't, I have 160 something thousand subs on YouTube. I don't think very many of them bought gun for the first time. I'm not catering to that. I'm not putting out videos to the new gun owner or nothing. So I don't think I'm going to see much effort on that. But you've got whatever, like, unless those people are just people that, you heard talking about it down the hallway and they don't know you heard them. Like, they probably know you're a gun guy. So once now that they've become a gun guy, you're in there, you're an influencer for them. And that's the best kind of influencers we can have, people that are aware and willing to be the ambassadors to individuals, especially going forward. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? What are we, 7 days into a month? And some of us have been held up for weeks, and some people have been held up for more than a month already, right? Like, there's people that jumped on this right at the beginning, have been up for most of March. Am I crazy? Yeah,
our last school day was March 15th.
Yeah, so this is a long time, and we still got 3 full weeks before it's even the beginning of the whatever, before people start to mass quit doing whatever. So who knows what kind of stuff will still happen with these people and with their interest in it or not. They're stir crazy. Maybe they are going online and figuring out how to take it apart and put it back together, and they're frustrated they can't go buy a revolver now, or whatever, the grass is green or whatever they didn't buy.
Right.
Maybe they're foaming at the mouth.
I did talk to several people that, they're friends of mine from work and they know that I'm a gun guy. And they were surprised on we've seen a million memes about it, that they had to do a whole bunch of, they had to do the background check and they had to wait 10 days. And I'm like, yeah, you supported gun control. That's it. So, and a lot of them were like, I didn't like that. I'm like, you're the ones that voted for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that we'll see more of less than whatever the told you so's and more of the let's talk about how we get rid of this now. Like now you understand why, that kind of. And I'm sure people are clever enough to come up with little meme ways, to get that point across. I'm looking forward to that. I don't think I've seen one like that yet. I've seen some that are kind of woke, kind of getting people poking at gun people though. I'd like to see some poking at those, or made for the people that are new gun owners in that way. Like, hey, think about your gun laws. Think about what you voted for. Or if you didn't, think about what you sat silent while it was being voted in front of you and it didn't apply to you, because that's what probably a lot of the people that bought guns aren't the people that are staunchly anti and completely, did a 180. It's probably those people, a whole bunch of people in the middle that didn't care one way or the other. While we're over here bitching, they're like yawn, being weird, talk about sports or talk about pop culture or talk about music or something. What's is music pop culture or is that two different things? I think they're two different things because music is way bigger than pop culture, right? There's pop music, but there's also way more to music, I think, than culture. So I think that's different. All right, so Ozzy's saying if they bought out of fear, they will remember that feeling and hang on to them.
Well, and this has affected everyone so differently depending on where we live and our financial situations and there's so many so I can definitely see like some people, really being legit scared and being, and just, and doing exactly what Ozzy said, not wanting to let go of that gun once they experience that feeling. So I can see that.
I'm not going to disagree, but I'm going to throw on top of it. Okay, so I believe we're seeing they've told us, the most of the doom and glooms have banked on this week being D-Day. This is the week. So if they're wrong and it's next week and the world ends next week, then this is wrong. But if I'm seeing it the way that it looks like this is the big tough week, and then everything will start getting back to normal, in whatever stages or whatever. And we don't see any kind of crazy violence committed with a political agenda to further the gun prohibition aside right now. Then what we see is a bunch of people that did buy guns, but probably out of fear. I'm not going to say they didn't buy it out of fear, but I also am going to say who knows why they bought guns. Maybe it's possible that people bought guns because they know that it's something that they can go acquire for a couple $100 that might be worth thousands, because if they're just aware, they know that that's a commodity that goes up in value and it's non-perishable, right? And they can sell it afterwards. It's not like buying a thing of toilet paper or rice, that a mouse can eat. It's not like buying gold, which is way more expensive. So it's possible that people bought these things as investments. It's possible that people are thinking the same thing as a lot of gun owners, that, hey, these are things that go up in value based on political poking around, and it's just like stocks or something. So, the fact that California only allows so many people to buy so many guns does, the same way that's an old person can't go to the store and buy toilet paper. So maybe their kids are buying two things of toilet paper, not to hoard, but to buy one for themselves and their kids and one for their parents and their parents' friends, right? So if someone's going to the store and they're buying a firearm for themselves and their mom or their dad or their uncle, and the one for their uncle is maybe for both of them as an investment, are we putting our feelings into it that they're buying it out of fear? I'm just throwing that out there because none of us know why they bought these guns. But we did know that a lot of guns got sold. And I'm still going to caveat this every time with, when you force universal background checks, it's a false narrative that these are new gun purchases. These could simply be, hey, Uncle Joe, let me borrow that shotgun. Okay, we have to obey the law, so let's go wait in line. And that's two people waiting in line for one shotgun to go between Uncle Joe and his nephew or niece, right? So let's not assume too much there, but let's go ahead and assume that that's a whole bunch of new gun owners because there's a bunch of guns flying off the shelves. We know it wasn't all just transfers. We have no major violence. We have no skirmishes. We have no riots. Do we still have fear? People are buying guns. If I give everybody, even though I'm going to challenge the fact that people only bought guns out of fear, but if I give you that they only bought guns out of fear, is the fact that we literally lived through another worldwide crisis of unprecedented level without any need for or fear from your neighbors. Do they still need to fear guns? So I hear you that they're going to buy those guns out of fear, and they might hold on to them out of fear. But don't we as rational humans, aren't just gun owners, we're just rational humans that want everybody to be peaceful, right? Can't we use this as an angle? Can't we use this as an opportunity to say, you bought those out of fear? Like a lot of people own guns out of fear, but we don't all own them out of fear, and there was nothing to be afraid of. Do we really think that it's just the fact that we got guns that keep us from killing each other, or is it just that we're nice people? We don't kill each other. I don't wake up in the morning and think about who I can kill and then go, oh, they all got guns, so I guess I won't kill them today. Maybe tomorrow things will be different. No, we wake up and wonder how we're going to do our thing and how we can do that, in harmony with everybody else so we all benefit.
Well, they'll come to that conclusion themselves once they own the gun, because then they'll be like, well, I'm not a murderer. I don't think about doing this, so other people probably don't. That's the realization that they need, is to actually for them to own the gun. Then they can relate to other gun owners, because when they hear something false or hear something stupid, so like, oh, all gun owners are bloodthirsty, da-da-da, they'll be like, wait, I own a gun, and I'm not like that. And then that's things like that. That's what's going to make them relate. They're going to come to those conclusions all on their own.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to get at. Bishop is saying about the toilet paper, that's just a regional thing, I'm sure. Because like I say, for us at least, it's everybody's locked down. We don't have as much population, and has had time to stock, so it's tons. Pink was saying that it goes pretty quick where he's at. It's coming in and going out the next morning. But about to go to 7-Eleven for cheddar popcorn and Jolly Ranchers. So that's something I haven't been doing. So I've been taking that advice and just not making unnecessary trips. And that's definitely frustrating because I never paid attention to how often I'll just go do something. And I guess how often people ask me to do stuff, right? Because I'm that guy that they know that doesn't have a 9 to 5. So, oh, we can get him to do it. And it turns out I end up doing stuff constantly for people, right? Doing stuff with people, for people, helping people, going with people, doing something. And y'all must be, we're all getting stir crazy, but that's got to be different for people. I'm not definitely going to the store every time I have a urge for something. And I used to. I used to like going to the store, especially when there was so much options at night. Pisses me off. Like after this show, I would often, fart around, close this show up, chat with whoever was in the chat, and then go to the store. I can't even think about doing that anymore. I think I'd probably get in trouble, right? You think I'd be pulled over for just driving around in the middle of the night right now?
Maybe, but a lot of stores around me that usually are 24 hours close at 7 p.m.
That's what I mean. Everything around here closes at 7, and there's nothing else open. Restaurants, I don't know, but I'm guessing because nothing else is open that like we have like the Bedoses and the Bordeaux and stuff. Like those places will be open 24/7. McDonald's will be open 24/7. I'm guessing McDonald's is probably still open 24/7, right? The ones by the highway and stuff.
Maybe. I know there's one near me that's usually 24/7 and it opens at 6 and it closes at 7 p.m.
A McDonald's, like a restaurant?
Yeah.
Now, are the highways closed at night?
No.
They're still able to drive all the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I live right next to I-5, so I can hear it. But it's definitely a lot quieter because normally I can hear, road noise. But
yeah, there's less people on it. There's nobody on vacation or whatever, but they're not roadblocks and curfews and shit.
No. I think that's very regional too.
let's see, if it's ruled on by the 9th, it'll be precedent for the nation, and it could go on to the SCOTUS. So what are they talking about?
That California made gun stores non-essential.
They did that here too.
Federal judge ruled today that stores are non-essential and can be closed. So, I don't know. I heard. I don't know if you guys watched the update from Gun Owners of America. Eric Pratt did an update. It was maybe like 5 or 8 minutes earlier today, and he mentioned, that one of the things that I don't know. It's not probably the time to do it, but when 3-letter organizations take credit for stuff, I don't know. I wish we had a publisher. What's the word? Like Consumer Reports. Remember that magazine? Like ideally like a non-biased person who records everything, like a scribe. But because you never know. Like a lot of the 3-letter organizations will say that they were involved, or they'll just leave out words to make it imply that they were important in this thing. But whatever. They were talking about how gun stores are deemed essential, and that had not been the case. And the reason I'm skeptical is because GOA was taking credit for it without talking about NSSF, and NSSF also takes credit for it, and I don't think they mentioned GOA. So either they're both mutually unaware of each other, which I highly doubt. They're working on 2 different things and decided not to cite the other thing, which I kind of doubt, or something. So that's my confusion, is that I don't know. I just know what I see out there. But I watched the thing from Eric Pratt, and he was saying that they weren't deemed essential. I guess there was some list of essential stores, and no one paid attention to it, and guns were never on it. And whoever it was, NSSF or GOA, whoever is claiming credit, went to the government, went to Trump, and said these stores need to be essential. And now what Bishop is saying is that a judge ruled today that in California, a state can override that, or did they happen in reverse order? Did this happen and then the feds said? Because that's the thing that I'm talking about happened weeks ago, I think, or at least last week.
Right? Wasn't it Homeland Security said that they were essential?
Right. And I think that, like I say, NSSF seems to be taking credit that they petitioned for that. And now Gun Owners of America is taking credit for they petitioned for that. I bet you if you asked FPC, they'd say that they petitioned for that, because they probably all did petition for that. Like, whose advice did they take, or did they take the advice of all of them? But then my question is what Bishop's talking about here, the California ruling at a federal level, was that before or after what we're talking about? What was it, the Homeland Security? Is that the one that made this decision of who's essential?
Yes.
Like CDC.
Well, and then there's a bunch of stores in Washington, like Sporting Systems, that we talked about before. One of the really great 2A rights one. They just stayed open. They're like, come close me.
Yeah. And then you got the thing with the narcs now. So that's another thing to worry about, where if you are going rogue and trying to remain available, then you got people complaining about it. And what power do they have? And then, I don't know. At the same time, it's tough because this is a challenge for us. We're having to hear little pieces of information, because I want to take that dot of information we have from Pennsylvania, from Pittsburgh, where potentially they said we're not going to, what do you call it, go out to all calls, and we're assuming that that's the entire country, and it isn't. Like, that is not the way it is on the entire country. That's just one little county or area of the city or whatever it was that decided to say that, and then a couple other cities have been doing that, and very few, I think, actually said it. But we're assuming that all the police departments are acting that way. But are they? I doubt it. I think they still are going out on calls, right? Maybe not everywhere. But anyway, so whether or not the gun shops are staying open or not, is being enforced, I guess, is regional, or depending on what the resources are of the cops and what how much the neighbors are complaining.
Yeah, orders statewide too. But then there's a couple gun stores that did close. Like my favorite one is just one guy, so he doesn't have the resources like Sporting System has to probably defend themselves legally.
kept going a little bit there. Now we're at an hour and a half, but I don't even know where to go with that. Like I say, I don't know enough of the details, and I'm not sure at this point. I guess there must be places where you're not like I guess there's different levels of enforcement or different levels of um, uh, definition of what stay at home is, right? Are there places? I mean, I guess I heard of somebody on a beach somewhere, everybody's citing it, but I'm always skeptical when everybody's citing one instance. What are we gonna, I mean, you have to be aware that there's something could happen, but then can't persecute everybody because it happened once. Is anybody actually getting tickets for being outside anywhere? Like, is that happening if you're not gathered in some big, party or something? I haven't heard of that. Just the inconveniences with having to wait in line at places that are open.
Yeah, I haven't
I've
heard
seen
it.
a couple things of people being arrested who are out doing nothing more than camping, and in fact, was it last night? A guy was apparently camping by himself in the middle of nowhere, and another guy came and shot at him because he didn't like the idea that he was camping while this was going on, and that happened where I live. And you know what I mean? In a small area, another guy got shot at just for camping right now, right? So, like, man, I don't know. Like, there is stuff like that going on. A wakeboarder was, out in the middle of the ocean by himself and was arrested, right? Like, no one even on the beach, no nothing. Like, that stuff's going on right now. So,
That's what I'm saying. That stuff. I've heard the one instance. Now, the one that you're talking about in Colorado, or not Colorado, in Utah, but the surfer thing is the only instance I've heard of that. But
no, I've seen a couple more. Yeah, there's
there's
definitely
a difference between like the beach is closed because we're not going to have whatever, beach, what are they called? Beach guards, lifeguards out there. The beach is closed, and so nobody can go out there, and like you're getting arrested for surfing. I mean, that's just, you get arrested for surfing if it was closed for construction and you went out there too. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I don't know even where that.
Well, what I see is this. Okay, this is what I see. I see a guy out in the middle of the ocean by himself, not breaking the law, not hurting anybody, not doing anything, minding his own business, right?
Well, no.
And they arrest him, and what do they do when they arrest him? They're going to put him with a bunch of other people, right? And but what else are they doing at the same time? Guess what? They're releasing thousands of sex offenders and prisoners and all sorts of stuff for violent crimes that have already been released and have already held women at knife point and committed other crimes. Already, this is going on, right? So they're releasing violent criminals and yet locking a fucking guy up for surfing.
No, we're going to start over. So you started out this whole thing with the guys out there not committing any crime. I'm going to stop you from that point because if the beach is closed and they say don't surf here and he's out there surfing, he is committing a crime. He's surfing. And if you allow one person to break the law, then what's to stop a whole bunch of other people from saying, oh, they're not enforcing the laws, let's go surf. And now you got 12 people out there surfing, and that's the whole point, was to get people not surfing or whatever. So I can understand that if one infringement of
I'm pretty sure it's in the Constitution, and I can look it up right now. But I had this discussion earlier that the government's not allowed to close a public place. I'm sorry, they're not. They can't just close. They
Now
can't.
you're getting off on another tangent. But what we're talking about here is whether or not we're looking at points, and we're assuming we're putting those points into everything. So if we have a point where a guy got arrested, and then you took another point where people are being let out of jail, and I can tell you that that can't be happening everywhere because we'd have chaos if it was happening everywhere. You acknowledge that, right? That is a news story, and I'm not challenging the validity of the news story. I'm asking for you to cite where that was, because that has to be a jail or a prison.
The Blaze has a story on it. I read it today. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at that story, because if we're talking the state of New York opened up all their prisons doors and said, because of this, criminals can just walk out. That's not what's happening. They're taking probably the criminals that are still not sick or something. There's got to be some determination. So if whatever it is, I don't really fucking care. because what we're doing is we're taking that news story and we're assuming it has anything to do with what's happening in California. Now, in California, if they are taking hardened criminals and putting them on the streets, I highly doubt they're also taking surfers and putting them in jail, because they're not doing both at the same time. They're either doing one or the other. You can't say that they're going to take people from the ocean and put them into crowded jails if they also empty the jails. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't work. The jail would be empty if they emptied the jail, and the surfer would be safe. Or they didn't empty the jail and you're putting the surfer in with all the criminals. They certainly did not open the jails and say only the murderers can leave, but all the sick surfers have to stay. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm asking us, is to be rational about it. And it's too easy in a discussion when we don't want to hold ourselves to it, to allow ourselves to conflate all that stuff. And that would be,
but like I said, like I started off saying, this is what I see, right?
Okay,
that's how I started it off, is this is what I see happening. I see them locking a guy up who is out alone in the middle of the ocean, and then I'm reading stories about them releasing tons of prisoners who are already going out and raping women.
Right,
so, I mean, take it for what it's worth. Like I said, that's what I'm seeing.
Right, but did you hear what I just said? Do you really think that's the same jail? Do you think that they're literally putting the guy in?
No, of course I don't think it's the same jail. But I'm reading stories like this, and
well, okay, now let me stop. You're just repeating yourself, and I'm not here to just speculate. So now let me say, have you listened to the thing from Smarter Every Day where he talks about the manipulation of the Reddit platform?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, so that was an interesting thing. Now, we know that outside actors, and they can be either outside our borders or outside the conversation or outside the society, outside meaning not two of the people involved in the situation. Outside actors can influence other people's social feeds, and if people are gullible enough to allow their social feed to dictate their actions in real life, then what they're going to do is be susceptible to manipulation. And for a big ass exaggerated example, somebody in Russia could suggest or could create a bot, a fake account or more, and do just enough stuff to the fake accounts to make them difficult to perceive as fake, and so that they seem real, and then let those things cook for a little while and spend some real effort on this. And then after some amount of time with these fake accounts, start to influence people's whatever, like, hey, why don't we have a meeting on the streets? Why don't we meet up? Let's all meet up and meet each other. Why don't we bring guns to this meeting? Why don't we bring angry signs and say how the other side is so bad? And once they find the people that are interested in doing that, and maybe they start with 1,000 people and they whittle it down to 50 people that are willing to show up, and then only 10 people do show up. But somebody in Russia just, was able to manipulate 10 people to show up with signs about how they hate the other side and to bring arms because of their rights. And that's not in itself a negative thing or a bad thing. I would look at it from afar and say those people were duped. Those people weren't paying attention and they were manipulated. But in reality, those people allowed themselves to be, and it's a free country and they're doing their thing. Now, if those same outside actors decided to do the exact same thing at the exact same time, just change the names on the signs so that the people on the east side of the street hate the people on the west side of the street and vice versa, well, I'm hoping I'm setting up a simple enough exaggerated example to show that an outside actor can create influence. Now, what if there was more than one outside actor that either did or did not work in harmony? And what if there was more than just the east side or the west side of the street? What if in real life there's all kinds of factions and nuance, and people are doing things for shits and giggles and political motives, and they're doing it for money, and they're doing it just because they have no other interests. They have that's their fun in life, is to screw with people across the world. Are we allowing ourselves to be manipulated by that? I suggest by knowing people, we can help eliminate some of that. So that's why I'm taking a second to harp on it. I really don't give a fuck if people want to think that we're seriously a country where we're going to take people and be so stupid that we're going to put people in jail, and at the same time let criminals out of jail, and just do that like in some kind of mechanical fashion, and just that we are that dumb, or if we're just fixated on it. But at some point we got to stop and just not keep absorbing and regurgitating. But we have to decide what our conversations are going to be about and use these tools. I don't know if I'm making that clear or not, but that's my thing. That I think we're vulnerable to manipulation at this point because we're not taking everything into account. We're seeing a lot of potential here to take pause and take another look at that stuff. And that's why I'm frustrated at some of the conspiracy stuff that doesn't look at the real issues. What if there's just 3 people manipulating this whole thing and the whole thing was a plot of 3 people? If you discount that, then are you really a conspiracy theorist, or are you just somebody who's interested in propagating a couple of conspiracy theories? What if we didn't have Facebook and we didn't have YouTube? Would YouTube have been able to distribute CBS and Como's daily fear sessions? Would that have had different influence if there was only television?
For sure. We got a bigger narrative now, but it's also like we're seeing, like, I don't need to see anybody else put on like any social media pictures of shelves that are empty. It's not just the media.
I posted pictures of my sewing machine shelves being empty, although grandma went in and bought sewing machines.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's tons of people that are just, that fear thing is out there, but it's not necessarily like an entity. It's just people in general taking weird pictures of stuff.
Well, yeah, and I don't know. Like I say, I think that we've talked about it occasionally, because we're gun owners and we share gun-related content, and there's theories and evidence or whatever the words are, that we're being shadow banned or not promoted or whatever. It's difficult to create a size audience, whatever. And so we probably are a little more sensitive to this stuff, but what I keep talking about this. I've noticed with playing with YouTube now, ever since I watched that thing about Reddit, I start telling YouTube, quit showing me this, right? Quit showing me this topic, quit showing me this channel. And it's desperately trying to show me things that it doesn't know what I want anymore. I've messed with its logarithm, so it's just showing me the weirdest stuff. And that's interesting. So that's why I'm wondering, if you follow a news thing about empty shelves and then you look at a picture about empty shelves or whatever it is, you watch a video about empty shelves, that's what it's going to start sending you, right? And now do you get the perception that all the shelves are empty, or is it just it's trying to oblige you? It's trying to give you what it thinks you want.
I think it's both.
If people aren't paying attention and they're just casually looking over their shoulder at their internet and it's constantly empty shelves, but it's the empty shelves feeding the empty shelves. And I've been trying to do this. I've been trying to type in like creative results or creative consequences of Karina. I'm looking for like the tag that people are using for something like that. Volunteering during Karina, things like that, looking for those kind of videos. Because what if everybody got those kind of feeds? And then it becomes, does the platform have any responsibility to influence the feed? Because the feed is going to probably try to give you what you want no matter what. And if you look at a couple of doom and glooms, it probably thinks you want doom and gloom, and it's going to shove you doom and gloom. If you started out looking for optimistic shit, it's going to show you optimistic shit. And that can't be good if it's only showing you optimistic shit. That's as bad as showing you only doom and gloom, right? If it only showed you medium of the road, you'd never be concerned one way or the other. You'd always think everything's good. You'd always be indifferent to everything. So is it the platform at all have anything to do with that? Or is it up to us to understand that the platform is going to be dangerous? If we ask for whatever, we're going to get whatever. And we got to know that we asked for that to be fed to we asked for that menu. We could have asked for the spicy menu, or we could have asked for the dessert menu.
Yeah, I think 100% that. What you just said. It's on us to know.
Now, I don't think that's something that each one of us gets like our award, like I figured it out button, and now we're stronger and we don't have to worry about it anymore. We can start worrying about retirement. But I think the next generation will be immune to that. We just are dealing with it. You know how it is? Like, think about like a commercial back in the day. Like when we were the TV remote controls, and then you guys are all old enough, right? I think everybody watching this is old enough to be the remote control before there were remote control TVs. Whatever
Yeah.
kid closest to the with the remote control.
Walk over there. Yep.
Yeah. Or we were usually laying there. We were usually like laying on the cold floor in front of the TV when it was hot out or whatever. So
you didn't have an older brother, but my older brother would make me go over there.
But yeah, so then we got remotes, and whenever there was remotes at first, kids never got to touch the remote because we'd break them or get peanut butter in them or something. Like we couldn't touch a remote. Cost like $200 when they first had remotes, so we never got to touch them. And then at some point, it was too much of a pain in the ass, and then kids were in charge of the remote, and then they got too complicated, and you have to run the remote for your grandparents, right? And I don't know what it's like now because I quit paying attention to TVs like in the 90s, but it probably some complicated remote still, right? But what I'm getting at is the commercials. Back in the day when we only had TVs, there was commercials, and you didn't even think about it. You just sat there watching commercials like a punk. Like I can remember sitting there not even thinking about it. And then at some point, probably when I was old enough to be watching TV when there weren't people around, I would flip the fucking commercial off. I'm going to flip to another channel when the commercial's on and be watching real TV instead of watching a commercial. So that I got in that habit. And if you tried doing that in front of an old person, you might as well have like burned the house down, right? You might as well have ripped the carpet or pooped on the rug or something. Like that's the worst thing in the world to flip a TV when a commercial's on. Like they cannot deal with it. Am I crazy? Am I the only one that dealt with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. My parents hated it.
Right. And then after a while, you'd get to like cable. And if you're watching commercials during cable, you're old. Like what the hell's wrong with you? As soon as a commercial starts, you're flipping to another channel. And then they got that back and forth button. That's when I quit watching TVs, but they had that back and forth button where you could be watching something on one channel and then a commercial would happen. You'd go to the other channel and go back. And you didn't care because you'd seen all these movies like 1,000 times. There was almost nothing new on. So who cares? And then if there would be an old person, even in the same room with you, they would freak out. Holy crap. They'd have a fucking conniption because you were flipping the channels or whatever. That's what we are. We're them old people right now, getting all mad when the kids are flipping their channel to the internet. I think the kids are figuring that. I hope that the kids are figuring this out. And the commercials to us is the manipulation, us getting told like, oh, it's so bad. Oh, it's so bad. And we're still the boss, kind of, we're either whoever's listening to this is probably the people with the hands, and whoever owns the television. And the kids just barely got the remotes right now. But I'm thinking that those kids are seeing all this back and forth garbage and stuff. And at the same time, not being so skeptical that they think the world's over, that there's no hope. I think they do think there's hope. And I think they see the wizard for what it is or whatever. Is that the right word? The curtain for what it is. And I'm still pretty confident. At least I haven't lost confidence that the kids will be more impervious to this. Is that the word? Less susceptible to this?
Well, I think it's one good thing from all this when talking about kids is there's this whole generation of kids that could have everything they wanted right now, and they're being told no for the first time in their lives. And there's going to be a lot less entitled kids.
Do you think schools will change? Is that what you just said? Sorry, I was flipping around in the comments. So you're saying school's going to change and we'll see less influence from there? And that's why we'll see less entitled kids?
I think because kids are being like, they want the new toy or whatever, but you can't leave your house. So the answer is no. And they're not used to that.
Well, I guess that's true. I don't know. I guess I can't even imagine. I'm not around kids on a daily enough basis to understand that part. But most of the time, I'm usually amazed nowadays at how little kids want. It seems like they're satisfied to have their video game and like a phone.
Oh yeah, if they have a phone, they're good to go.
They don't have like toys. As far as I can tell, the little kids will have toys, but once they're like whatever Star Wars
toys, like 7 maybe, and then they're done with toys.
Yeah, like they don't even have toys anymore. And like a bike, I don't know if a kid has a bike. I'm not sure if they make bikes anymore. And like a little kid having a motorcycle, I don't see little kids driving. I mean, maybe a couple of kids out here want it, but very few.
I tell kids all the time, try this thing called outside. They're like, oh, come on, Mr. Woods. But that's a whole nother topic for a different day.
Yeah. We've definitely gone all around on this one, but or on different topics tonight or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we're not going to be. It turns out we're not going to be able to answer it tonight. After all, maybe. We still got 10 minutes, so if anybody does have an answer, we can solve this whole thing tonight. If we could solve the quarantine, that'd be good. Everybody get back to work. We'll just sit in silence until that.
I'm pretty sure the answer doesn't involve bacon, but I'm really trying.
So here is some stuff from Instagram that I've reposted that I thought was funny. Will this make it stop? Yeah. So this one, can I make it zoom in? Oh, look, it's going down when you zoom in. That's stupid. Nope, I didn't go the other way. 100. Okay, so I thought this one was funny again from ATF convenience store up in Kingman. Oops, I thought that made it stop. It's only quarantine if it comes from the quarantine region of France. Otherwise, it's just sparkling isolation.
That's funny.
And then this one is the first thing I was kind of thinking of. Dang it, whenever they started talking about this whole like wear a mask garbage, like a minute ago, it was illegal to wear a mask and you were a gangbanger or whatever if you're wearing a bandana. And now all of a sudden I don't know. I went to the one store, so I don't know. I'm not an expert on stores or nothing anymore, but 20-30%, maybe 30-40% of the people were in masks, and it was all old people and they were doing it wrong. Like so many of them had the mask around their mouth, not around their nose.
I've seen that. Oh,
You know, they're trying, they're not doing it.
I like how many creative ways there are to make a mask online too. One lady was cutting socks.
I would think just cutting the arms off a short sleeve t-shirts would be the way to do it. Wash them, you know, so you're not sniffing armpit, and then that would not be like just about right.
Yeah, that would work great.
Maybe
a straight up 1880.
I just have this thing that's like basically like the arm of a shirt, I guess. It's like the arm of a jacket or something, except it's like a foot long and it's just a tube. You put it over your head like around your neck, and it would be like if you're wearing just the turtleneck of a turtleneck thing, but it's green or whatever, so you wear it for hunting if it's cold out.
Right.
Your mouth and your nose or whatever. Or maybe it's green and stuff, whatever. But I figured I'd put that on, and if anybody was making me wear it, I'd have it. But I walked into the store and nobody was doing it, and I'm like, if the employees aren't doing it, then I'm not doing it.
I'm exactly the same way. I'll wear my little bandana thing if other people are doing it, but I'm not going to do it if the employees aren't doing it.
Well, I had it around. So that's a nice thing about having it be just around my neck, right? It just looked like my shirt had a weird green collar or something, but it enough that I could pull it up over my mouth. So I figured that way, if some old lady gave me the stink eye, right, like the cough eye or whatever it's called now, and I had to go down because mainly I forgot to buy peanut butter before all this happened in the before times, and it was driving me nuts not having peanut butter. I eat peanut butter a lot, I guess. So I went to go get peanut butter, and I figured I'd probably encounter some old lady trying to buy something in the peanut butter aisle. Actually, probably could have figured I'd see somebody in the sewing machine aisle too, but I didn't.
What about you, Dad? You been wearing masks?
Oh, when I go out in public, yeah, because I have someone with a compromised immune system at home.
You're doing it so much that so just in case you don't get it by any chance and bring it home.
Yeah.
And then, see, you got it pretty good. Hopefully a situation like what you've got is working. So except for maybe if he's got to go to the doctor or something, you've got enough people to keep, so where he doesn't have to ever go out if he doesn't need to, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's enough infrastructure or whatever, like support.
Yep, hopefully. As long as we can keep oxygen coming,
Oh, interesting. So is it expensive to buy? My aunt or whoever she was had a thing that looked like it looked like that one robot that had legs from Star Wars in the Jawa factory. But it would make oxygen.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's okay for like around your living room or bedroom or something, right? And a long oxygen cord, but you want to do anything else or go you're attached to a cord the whole time, right? So that's why you need the oxygen tanks.
Oh, I thought that thing that made oxygen would fill a tank. It's just for it's like being on a hookah, except the opposite of a hookah. You breathe it in.
Yeah, because the tanks are under like such high pressure, like the machine can't do that. And the machine's oxygen isn't as good as the oxygen tank oxygen.
Yeah, I'm thinking when they stick it into a green tank, it has to be whatever. Like it has to be filtered in percentage or something, right? They can't just stick any oxygen in there, or they're not supposed to. Like it's not supposed to be air. It's supposed to be oxygen.
Yeah, pure oxygen. Yeah. And you have to have like no smoking like stickers like around your house. Shit.
I thought the most interesting thing I learned about oxygen when I was taking classes and stuff is that you don't ever want to use like a sticker around oxygen. The adhesive part of the glue or whatever can burn with oxygen, right? Like you have to worry about, and then certain lubes or stuffs people might put like on plumbing or like a regular natural gas line or something. Like you don't want to use anything like that with oxygen. It can have reactions.
Well, it probably oxidizes. Yeah, like oxidization. All sorts of different materials oxidize.
Well, I've been looking at the schedule and um, and I was hoping to set. What the hell? How many stuff do I even have here? I've been hoping to start the Daily Gun Show doing like a noontime brief thing and then do this one. But it's amazingly difficult to put that together. So I'm going to keep working on that. I appreciate the people that jump in, but we're right around the 2-hour mark. So we'll wrap it up tonight for 2 hours for 2A. And I thank the people that are out there being part of the conversation. If you're one of those people listening to it in the future or on the podcast, then give us some feedback. And if you want to give us some direction, feel free. But like I say, my goal is to get this thing down to like a 10 to 20 minute midday type of thing, and then have this be a follow-up discussion. And because basically we've just kind of let it go. And these are nice discussions or whatever, but I do want to get some stuff accomplished with these things since we do the show every day. Hit on things like some of the museums and gun shops that we visited on the tour and some of the 2A activists that are out there. And as soon as this stuff is over, unless you're one of the people that think it's about to end and we're just, waiting for the inevitable, everything to fall down the drain. Once it all comes back in the after times, I'm hoping that we had a really strong Second Amendment rally year going, and it didn't look like it was slowing down until all this. So I think at this point, there had to be a dozen of them that have been rescheduled that were going to happen this month and last month. And hopefully we're going to see, people wanting to get out and appreciate being with each other. And obviously the conclusion of this, however it concludes, will be if people are going to hang out together or not. But I'm really looking forward to a time when everybody can get back together, and maybe we'll see a whole different kind of 2A coming out of it, where these people that have, potentially come on board, people who, even if they didn't come on board, they might have thought about it. And we've got the potential there. And if we can do good at getting the word out and have some of these rallies, we might have a really interesting 2020 here going into an election. Like I say, I really like to focus on some of that stuff for 2A. But then because of all this, I'd also like to look at the positive stuff that's coming out of all this. And I guess alluding back to what I was describing, if you only look at empty shelves, the logarithm's going to give you empty shelves. So I'd like to jumpstart that logarithm and start looking at some of the civic and community level, regional, county level, like things that are happening, either to help people in the immediate crisis or to prepare for what's next. One of the things that, I'm love and hate with the NSSF. Every time I see the NSF do something, about half the time I'm frustrated with it. But I think NSSF is in a unique spot, and I don't know if they're addressing this, but think of these gun shops who are, some of them are selling out. Some of them have sold their inventory. So what does that mean to a gun shop? When you have sold everything in your shop, that's out of the normal, right? That's out of ordinary. Unless you were planning to retire, so it just coincidentally lined up right, and you can just hang up the close sign and you're out of there. What do you do next? You just got a lot of inventory out. You've removed all your inventory. You've got a lot of capital and potential investment money, but what is there to buy? Right? And this isn't the first time this has happened, but how many shops have we seen come and go through 13, through the shortages, through the, there's a little one with Trump, I guess, but, through the scarcity and through the panic buys, how many times have we seen gun shops start up and disappear, or old established gun shops fail and die because they couldn't keep up? I mean, we've seen it with gun shows. And nobody even blinked an eye. Nobody cared that gun shows disappeared, because now we have a whole nother generation who's never even been to a real gun show. They don't even know what a gun show can do. So they don't know what they've missed. We're about to see that with gun shops and stuff. What could NSSF be doing? What could an organization like an NSSF, POMA, the NA, whatever it is, the Northeast or the Southeast regional media thing, some of these organizations that have individuals that have been through multiple panics and surges, is there some advice or some collaborations that could be done with gun shops to get them stronger through all of this? We've got gun tree clubs now. Is there something with all these new gun owners that could be done? Look at the campaigns we have. Eddie Eagles from like 1992 or 80 something. Refused to be a victim is from like the early 90s, I think. The programs that we have in place, except for some of the very new ones, are decades old. And are those going to apply to the new shooters who are coming on board now? And are we going to allow the gun tree clubs? I mean, I kind of alluded to the concept of how training has evolved and how we get to where we are now with both trainers and people seeking training, and where we're all coming from. Are gun tree clubs going to come up with their own curriculums for how to introduce new shooters in, or are we going to get something on point, across the country, like with an NSSF or whatever the NRA used to be with their training thing? Did you see that the NRA laid off almost everybody in Virginia? Anybody see that news article?
No, I didn't see that.
Let me go pull that one up. Is it called when you fire everybody? But the polite way of saying it? Lays off, maybe?
Yeah, layoff.
Maybe NRA layoffs. Two weeks ago, 8 hours. Yeah, 60 employees. I'll screen share again. So this is from Politico. Is that a good one or a bad one? It's probably a bad one. They got a big gun.
Bad one, super left.
So the gun rights group has long faced criticism for its spending, now faces tough financial choices amid the coronavirus panic. I can't believe they said coronavirus. It's so racist. And then they said pandemic. It's so nationalist. The National Rifle Association has laid off more than 60, I can't believe they said laid, 60 employees in recent weeks, according to 3 people with knowledge on the matter. Oh, look at that. 3 people with knowledge on the matter know about this. The move comes from as the gun rights group faces an acute financial challenge during the economic crunch, blah, blah, blah. Spokesperson for the group did not dispute the layoffs. Then they have a quote here. On March 22, it was announced and widely reported that the NRA would be implementing a number of permanent and temporary staff reductions along with other cost-cutting measures, just like many other corporations and nonprofits, as a result of the extraordinary impacts of the COVID-19, which is a much more politically correct way of saying it. Said Andrew, somebody who heads the group's public affairs. I never heard of Andrew, whatever this guy's name is, before. Canceling the annual convention has forced us to postpone many fundraising events and special programs. Our leadership is still deeply committed to the long-term viability of the NRA and protection from freedoms, blah, blah, blah. And that it would cut remaining employee salaries, according to the NRA, who made more than $2 million, would also take an unspecified pay cut. I've heard that he's going to take a $50,000 pay cut. He's only going to take $1,950,000 this year. You're welcome.
He could sell some suits. He could sell some suits.
You only wear those once. You don't wear a $250,000 suit twice. It's gauche. That's for the pores. Oh, it keeps going. Despite its blah, 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 the NRA, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Right. So that's happening. The NRA is closing down. So I don't know. I don't think the NRA would have stood up and been the people to counsel gun shops anyway, but be cool to see maybe some kind of when I first started doing the business on my own, I was not good at it. So there was a program here in Tucson that might still exist. I think it was called CORE. I don't remember. And it was something like the point of it was to have old retired business guys teach young new business people what's up. And it was kind of like Big Brothers. You would go there and did they match you? I don't remember if I only went to it once or twice, but I like the concept. It didn't quite click because I didn't know any gun people there. But whatever, I think that might be a neat concept is to have people that are experienced and retired offer counsel and coaching to people who are whippersnappers, just figuring it out. So I don't know if there's something like that to be done. Maybe for advocacy, that could be helpful too. Although not everything's going to apply. Certain things always apply, right? Looks like Knives and Woods need to get a room.
Knives is one of the coolest dudes on the ever gave feet. He's the one that taught me how to do Google Hangouts back in the day.
Looks like we've been going too long. The elderly viewers have to go on for the night. You know, once they take their pills, they're not supposed to stay up very long. Once they drink their warm milk, go to sleep. Oh, there goes Dead Horse. He didn't like me talking about that guy being elderly either. We're doing okay in Arizona. I was just talking about it being, I'm not saying nobody's concerned about nothing out here, but it doesn't seem to be dire. And I suspect, just from my crazy, but exponential is when you've never heard of Tiger King and all of a sudden everybody you know is paying attention to Tiger King. That's exponential growth. Am I crazy? Weekly talking about the number of people that are dying and it doesn't really grow that much isn't exponential. I think if this was an exponential thing that was going to take us all out, we'd know about it. No. Is he still out there? So we either spread the curve or whatever, lower the curve or whatever. We either accomplish that or the projections were just, whatever, bigger than what we actually experienced or whatever. Or we're sitting on some step and it's about to hit, right? I guess that's possible. But
I think we're doing okay.
Yeah, I think if it was cause for ultimate concern, I think we would just see more precursors to it. But I guess if it's ultimately, if we've never seen anything like it, we can't know. But if it's like anything we've ever seen before, we would have expected to see a different route at this point. Justin says, doing well in Arizona, running low on TP. Just a FYI, if you haven't seen my post, the 99-cent onlys, I had plenty the other day when I went. And unless something's changed, you might want to check them out. It's possible that they're not on the radar of everybody, that 99-cent only, it's like the purple stores. Or they just have different distribution or whatever. They're able to get them out there. And it might be different in Phoenix, but I'm going to a Tucson store. I think we have 4 or 5 of them in Tucson. And then pretty much everybody told me that they could get it as long as they went in the morning. It'd be gone by the first wave of people that, emptied the boxes or whatever, but they'd have them every morning. Did today in your area, Nada? That's 6. Uh-oh. See, this isn't old. Old is when you're like 70. And actually, old doesn't an age. It's when you give up, right? Isn't that when you're old? When you're done? When you've given up? You're cashing out?
You're
allowed to do that. I mean, everybody's allowed to do that at a different time, but I think of when you're old, you're just not really helping anymore. You're just done. You're in it for yourself now. You're done. And sometimes I guess that happens to you. You don't see it coming, or you get broke or something falls off.
Yeah, well, the older you are, the longer the recovery time is for some of that.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much, I'm not aware of anybody getting out of it alive, so everybody's allowed to check out whenever they feel like it. I don't mean check out, but retire whenever they feel like it. Going tomorrow, right on. I went to the one place weeks ago, and then they had it, and I bought some kind of name brand, which I don't like, and I didn't even need to touch it. And then finally went to my place. Like I say, they had a ton of it, so I bought the stuff I'm used to, my normal cheap stuff, and so I never even had to touch the good stuff. So I've got that for if you really need it. I don't know where you're at, but I tried giving it around to the people I know, and they're pretty much in the same boat. At first, they all were like a little bit desperate, like because they couldn't find what they liked. But I've been trying to pass it off because it's fancy name brand, and everybody's like, "No, we already have our own name brand, and that's not the name brand they like." So if I don't use it for too long, I'll just give it to some old people or something.
I think that's definitely something that America's getting used to. You go to the store and you're used to your name brand mac and cheese, and they've got some other kind. You're going to have to get used to buying some of the other kinds. Probably not the worst thing ever.
No, and like I said, I think hopefully it's an opportunity for people to start enjoying something different. Right? You ever watch Shark Tank?
Yeah.
I don't watch anymore, but I have watched it, and it seemed like a good chunk of them were either like not restaurants necessarily, but like maybe making some kind of chip or some sort of a food that was in a bag or delivered, or a lot of them were like service food type of thing, wine even. So yeah, some of that stuff that there's a lot of entrepreneurial people doing their thing, like, oh, I make cheese my way, or I stick this into there, or I make peanut butter in this different way. There's an opportunity for that kind of stuff to catch on and not have to, have been a product that so many people like that Walmart's going to put it on a shelf in a billion stores or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. And then hopefully we'll see some repurposing of some of these strip centers and stuff. There's some potential there. That'd be neat.
Oh, like the malls and whatnot?
Well, I guess the malls I wasn't even thinking about, but I was thinking it's just like where there's like a Kmart, and then maybe Kmart's usually like an anchor, and then they'd have like a couple of other stores depending on how big. They might have a second anchor, but maybe a restaurant in the parking lot. And for us out here in this sprawl of Arizona, at least, those died, and those are maybe the restaurant's still cooking, or there's like a Planet Fitness in this one of the anchors, and then maybe like whatever used to be a Radio Shack is now a bakery or something, maybe like that. Those kind of things are being repurposed, could be repurposed for some of the stuff that people took for granted from overseas, right?
And possibly some of the businesses that didn't make it, which is tragic when you put your whole effort into that, like the small business owners. But then the next people, because this is America, we're entrepreneurs. The next person, do they get a little cheaper rent and go after it a little bit more because they had all this time to sit around and think about their dream?
Yeah.
And they said
maybe tweak it. Maybe their dream was sort of not parallel with where things are going, but things in a chaos that makes you go, oh, wait a minute, if I tweak it a little bit, now it works with the current state of things, and now it's a viable business where before it wasn't. Maybe. There was you remember this show, Portland, India, called Portland, India?
Oh God, yeah, I lived in Portland.
You ever watch that show?
My friend literally lived right down the street from where they filmed it, like where the whole warehouse was for it. Watched it all the time.
Okay.
They nailed
it. Wasn't it that show that they did a thing about like artisan toilet paper one time?
Yes.
That going around. That's some meme material right there. They were like handcrafting each roll or whatever the fuck.
And in Portland, that would sell. That's the way on earth.
No bleaches. Only the most renewable of timber.
I knew a guy that had a drum circle store. You can only do that in Portland. He sold drums.
Mm, you could do that in other places, but yes, very few other places, but you could definitely do it in other places. As he's saying, I guess I can click on it. He's saying when the beef and pork are empty, I go to the salmon. The salmon has been, I've only been to the store a couple of times, but the salmon has definitely been there. But I watched that thing, some documentary about the salmon, and there's always going to be salmon. Like is it the Norways? I think it's the Norways or the Finishes, one of them countries up there that's north of Europe, where they got all the water. They've got it figured out with salmons. So that's going to be the crop of the future, I think. I think we're going to see way more. Salmon is the beef of the future, or the chicken of the future, actually. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. But yeah, I think that you'll see salmon on the shelves all the time because that's something that takes very little human interaction compared to a lot of the other stuff. Here's something neat too. Since we're ending the show, we might as well talk about a whole nother thing. Nobody pays attention. Like, right, whenever I talk about food and stuff, people zone out because I'm a crazy food guy. But people don't pay attention to how our food gets here. The reason I do things I do with food is because I don't like the infrastructure. It's super fragile. I don't like our infrastructure at all for food. It's been a vulnerable point of ours for as long as I've been aware of it, since the 50s, really. And I think this is going to show us something that we'll see if it comes out on the other end or not. I'm not going to suggest I know the answer, but I saw something today about if you think about it this way, if you came to this country and you weren't born here, you don't have a birth certificate, so it's difficult to acquire a valid, what do you need? Driver's license or something to get a job, and a social security card. So what they'll do is buy a fake one, right? And then do whatever they do to get a fake job. When the jobs are gone and the stimulus checks are coming out, they're not going to the fake social security numbers and stuff. So those people are booking it. They booked back across the border again. And if I'm wrong, or if it's a fake news thing, then it's a fake news thing. But if it's right, and all the people that were just up here illegally, or a bunch of them, booked back because they took the same infrastructure back that they took up here, not only does it swell those countries in a different way, but it leaves us with missing pieces. And I don't think too many people want their teenage kids going to work at the slaughterhouse. Maybe I'm wrong, but people think the immigrants come up here and work in like the fields cutting lettuce, which they do, but that's not exclusively what they do. And when those infrastructures, we've got very few systems, like all the potatoes come from one place, all the corn comes through one cycle. Like, there's very few systems. There's a lot of food, but it all comes through very simple systems. Once a couple of key employees missing, I don't know what happens with those systems. If something comes from 3,000 units a day to 30 units a day or 300 units a day, what's the consequences on the other end when, McDonald's can't get the same kind of fries they're used to in every single store in the country and planet, really. Like you say, like that's different when you can't go to a McDonald's and expect the same exact thing that you would expect in every other McDonald's, because I think that's the way they try to do it, right?
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you went to France and ordered a Big Mac in France, they'd allow that to be different. But at least in this country, if you go to Maine or you go to California or if you go to Florida or if you go to Ohio and you order 3 Big Macs, you're basically, aside from the assembly of it, variable of the human who assembled it, you're getting the same ingredients from the same flavors and the same sizes. It's not going to fluctuate very much. That might be different. And I really think, maybe I'm wrong, what do you think? If people had no McDonald's and no Burger King and no that same all the time, don't you think we would enjoy like going to Wisconsin for their version of a bratwurst and then going to Oregon for your version of a bratwurst and then going to Florida for their version of a bratwurst? Especially with the internet, where you don't have to even go there. You can just get in the Bratwurst of the Month Club, and instead of getting the same bratwurst every week from Walmart, you get a different bratwurst from all around the world every week.
Yeah, you just stole the thing I was going to say is you're going to start, getting food from other places that, like, especially when you don't have to talk to money or go to a store anymore. Then you can just have the whatever kind of food that you want delivered from anywhere in no time.
Oh, I just now seen that Horse put a comment in there. Yeah, and here's the thing. I think that I don't know. I think that I think that there's been communicable diseases that are deadly before, and we grow out of it. It's not our nature to want to be isolationist. I think as a mammal, like we're a community mammal. You know what I mean? We're not a type from. So I think it's going to be sooner than later that we'll be back to no masks. I mean, there'll be people that wear masks. Maybe there'll be people that feel their heightened susceptibility or something, or maybe there'll be like a more subtle mask. Have you seen the things that just go in your nostrils?
No.
I think it was We the Female had posted something. So imagine a little tiny mask the size of I don't know, an M&M or something, something that's small enough to go in your nose. But then they put like a rubber gasket around it. And that rubber gasket has like large, medium, and small. And you literally stick it in your nose. Like there's a thing, I think, for swimming where they'll shove it in your nose if you don't know how to swim right. You have to put that thing in your nose. So like that, except that it's a filter. So it's real subtle. So now you just breathe through your nose, you close your mouth, you breathe through your nose. And it's for shooting, I think, and for different, it's not for like all day long. It's just for like, I'm going to be doing something. And it's sort of like earplugs that you would just have real subtle. Oh, I'm going to need them for a minute. Got them in. Okay, they're out again, hanging around my neck. It's sort of like that.
Going to a movie, a concert, that kind of thing?
Well, no, I think it's for like, I'm going to be using a grinder and I don't want to go put on a foam face mask, but I don't want the sparks to go up my nose or something like that. Like, I think it's just for little tasks or something. Because it's not really marketed for gun people, but I think it would work for like, I'm going to the range. I don't really want to wear a mask, but I don't want to inhale all this, gunpowder, whatever. So I'll just put this thing in. It's subtle. So anyway, and this was weeks ago. It was a long time ago that she posted that, I think. And it was in the before times, I think. But anyway, I thought that was just kind of subtle. So if there's something like that where they figure out, it doesn't need to be a thick membrane. It just has to have a membrane that's got cinnamon in it. They figure out some easy thing that, anybody can kind of apply, or you just buy this antiviral juice, you put it into the filter, and now every filter works or something. If they figure out some way to subtly put filters, maybe we'll see people being crazy about it. But I guess what I was getting at is I think that there'll be some amount of time that people are crazy, and then it'll get back to just people shaking hands and coughing on each other and not worrying about it. I think we're just too strong as mammals, and we've got that. We touch our parents, we touch our kids, we touch our brothers and sisters, we touch our friends. We're not going to be like, oh, I'll touch these people, but not those people. You can take off your gloves when you touch your kids. You put your gloves back on to touch your neighbor. Like, I just don't see that. Maybe. But we've gone through
we can't even predict what's going to happen, and we've never been through this before.
Well, we went through the Spanish thing, and we went through like the AIDS, and we went through things where people were scared, and the monkey flu and the bird flu and the bat flu. Like it's just
like the X's in the stores. I think those are here to stay.
I don't think so, because that's one of the biggest inconveniences right now is that. I think they'll be here for a bit, but I think that they could be here to stay if, sure. Like, I'm not saying they can't be here, but I think they'll only be here if they, for some reason, like if you can get it, but you're still a carrier. Like you got it, you got sick, you're not going to get sick anymore, but you can still give it to people. Hell yes. Of course, they'll have some kind of crazy 12 monkeys future. But if it's like every other thing, and I saw a really good breakdown. I think it was the guy from Dr. Adine, the guy from Doctor for Responsible Gun Owners. And he gave a decent breakdown, he was being more scientific than he needed to be, but he was also dumbing it down to where he showed the reason why it's called COVID. The nomenclature is a structure, like a lot of things in science. And there are ones that mutate a lot, but once they've mutated, they get more stable and more difficult. It's not possible for them to mutate so much. And that's where COVID is. So yes, it's possible for it to mutate, but it almost has to go backwards and then mutate in a different way, if that makes sense. Like it won't mutate, but things like it will continue to mutate. So in other words, it's not unique. It's only unique in the respect that like it's a strawberry flavored ice cream, but it's still ice cream. We've had chocolate ice cream before. We've had strawberry ice cream before. Vanilla ice cream before. We have butterscotch. Sure, it's strawberry, so it's different, but it's not like we have any precedent that strawberry ice cream turns into dry ice or something, or like strawberry ice cream kills you. Like, we know that if you jam strawberry ice cream down your throat, it will kill you. But if you just eat it, it's not going to kill you. So that's where
I think it's kind of like the seventh inning stretch. So the seventh inning stretch in baseball. I know you're not a sports guy, but bear with me for a second.
So that's where everybody is like, the game has already been played, and now it's just the conclusion or something. Is that what that is?
It's during the seventh inning, and one of the presidents, I don't remember which one, somebody could probably help me on this, was watching a baseball game and stood up. Everybody else stood up with him. We still do it.
Oh, it's literally just, it started from one guy got up and did it, and then everybody does it.
Right. I think there's going to be things like that. I can't tell you what they're going to be, that we started doing it during this time and we just keep doing it. We may not even have the greatest reasons for doing it, but we're going to keep doing it.
Oh, I got you. Sort of like there's a story about the ham, cutting the edges off the ham or whatever. The mom used to put the ham in the oven, cut the edges off the ham, and then blah, blah, blah. And the daughter started doing it, and the granddaughter started doing it or something. And then somebody asked why they do it, because doesn't it dry the ham out or something? And then they asked the grandma, and they're like, oh yeah, the oven was too small. I had to cut the edges off.
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of thing. I think it's going to be interesting to see what that is. But I do think over time we're going to be very much similar to where we used to be. We're going to cough on each other and go to concerts and baseball games and gun stores and gun rallies and all that. I think we're all going to be fine. I really do believe that. But there's going to be these weird things that are the social piece that we trained ourselves to do that we're going to keep doing.
Well, I keep using the one from the aspirins. So you were around, how old were you when the aspirin thing happened? I don't know.
Where if kids took it, they would get like that weird. Yeah, the kid in my class had that.
Not that. Tylenol scare. So when I was like,
in it?
Yeah, somebody opened up a couple of, because back in the olden days, you could just go to a store and open up a thing of pills. There would be a thing of cotton in there so that they didn't, roll around. But there was nothing. There was no plastic. You could just open up anything and eat two of them and put it back together, and nobody ever cared because nobody was doing that. Yes. So somebody went in and poisoned some pills and put them in, like went to a store and like opened the container of pills, put in the poison ones or something. And then I think a couple of people died. I don't know, but it was definitely a panic.
Yeah.
It's actually a really cool story about capitalism. So it happened in the Chicago area, and so that region was super affected. And then did they catch the guy? I think they caught the guy, so they knew what the deal was.
Buy one and go and load them up and then bring it back and set it back on the shelf.
Yeah. So they caught him and they knew the extent of it, but there was still this perception that like, oh, this could happen again. Like, and that was his goal. He was a terrorist. He was trying to cause what's the word? Like, he was trying to create a pause for people to be skeptical of their pills, anything that they bought. And at the time, everybody was super worried. And I was a little kid, but I remember it being a thing. Like, it was big time news of the day. And it was different, but similar to this, where everybody was focused on the same thing. And it was basically like, hey, we got these stores with all these products. Is this a vulnerability? Like, are we at risk because we have stores? Like, should we go back to the old days where one guy knew every single thing in his store? Is it crazy to have these supermarkets and stuff? Because this wasn't like the beginning of supermarkets, but, it was still when people remembered not having supermarkets or whatever. Yeah, it was cyanide. And then, so basically it was Procter & Gamble, and they decided to put safety stuff on all of their stuff. They just said, yeah, you know what, this is an issue. So we're going to put, I don't remember exactly how they said it, but they basically created safety bottles. And now everything you buy has a little safety thing, and it has a clever bottle opener. So you can't just, maybe the safety bottles was a different thing, but certainly the little plastic strip or the piece of paper that seals a bottle so that nobody's tampered with it or whatever, the tamper-proof stuff, or the little plastic sheet that they'll put around the outside of the cap so you can't unscrew the cap without breaking the plastic. All that stuff is a result. I guess the child-proof caps is probably different, but that's another example. Something happened to some kid, or the kid that broke the camel's back happened, and the lawsuit went through, and it made it so that all bottles have to be difficult to open for babies. Those are the kind of consequences you're talking about, though, like the echoes of that. In those cases, it was something. It was a attempt to answer the concern in a way that appealed to the most amount of people so that they would get over it. And it worked. Like, by putting the safety stuff on, everybody was like, the industry did something. Like, it changed. They spent a lot of money doing that too. They took a big bite, but they wouldn't be here if they didn't. there wouldn't be a Procter and Gamble probably, and there's still a Procter and Gamble. They like literally own everything. Well, not everything, but they're one of the big players, right?
Yeah, they own a lot.
But anyway, so yeah, I think we'll see some stuff. But the other thing is, we got the internet, so stuff. I guess stuff sticks. You can't tell what's going to stick. Something will stick, I guarantee, because it happened worldwide. But that's the other thing, is it happened worldwide. So I kind of think this is going to be just like the Spanish flu or World War II or something in that respect. Literally everyone around the world has had some experience with it. It's a unifying thing. I really think it's a potential for good, because it's an adversary against mammals. It's not, I mean, unless it turns out that it was a militarized thing by some nation. Otherwise, it's just a thing that happens with us as mammals, and it's a universal adversary. It's sort of like if aliens came. So hopefully we'll see that. Like it's what do they call that? When everyone experiences the same thing, something that we can all understand the concept, or we all have some appreciation for each other based on that.
Common experience, maybe?
Common, yeah. There's got to be a better, like a more profound way to say common experience, because there's really nothing else like this, right? So hopefully it's a Corona event for communication. And there's been a lot of skepticism and blah, blah, blah. But the same way that we're going to hopefully expect anti-gun prohibitionists to recognize that in this time of unprecedented struggle and stress and strife in a little bit of tension for sure, but a little bit of, stuff going on, there's relatively none or maybe no violence at all. And definitely none by individuals against individuals with the massive firepower that they own individually. Especially at a time when the police, they pretty much know that they've got the best situation they could pretty much ask for police. You got things like the cartels live an hour south of me, and they don't care about the government of Mexico. They don't care about the people in Mexico. And they haven't driven up here to take everything in Tucson or Nogales or El Paso or Tijuana or any of the other major cities that are on the international border with them. And when are they going to have a better chance with Border Patrol not being there and local law enforcement being tied up with other things and everybody being isolated? They've got the best opportunity in the world. They're not even all that sick, I'm sure. They could easily send all their other people up here. Do they? No, it's a blade of grass shit, right? They're not stupid. They know that the people in Arizona and Texas and even California ain't going to stand for that. They really can't do nothing in California. It's literally barren desert. If you've ever been to that border, but over here, it's Texas for sure. You walk across the border from Mexico into Texas, you're on private land. You're done, right? You can't do nothing there if you're a cartel. New Mexico, it's a little different, but then once you get to Arizona again, it's private land. And if we started hearing that cartels were coming up from private land, I don't think anybody'd wait for the cops to say nothing. There wouldn't be no governor saying nothing. It would just be instant, addressing the situation, I guess you could say.
Well, the whole thing's an act of solidarity, isn't it? Like the fact that we're doing it. It's the biggest act of solidarity that we've had in our lifetime.
That's what I mean. So I think that it's up to ours to lose as individuals. But if we go on business as usual and wonder when the next episode of SpongeBob is coming and act like this never happened, but if we acknowledge that without a common government of the world, without NATO having any real influence, without WHO doing anything other than running around reporting on stuff, they actually didn't orchestrate or do anything. They didn't facilitate the ease of panic or pain. Right? Like without any unified government, a whole bunch of individual states with individual valid self-interest peacefully got through a pandemic, international pandemic. So yeah, we can hold people to, or we have to challenge people to be aware that all happened at all different levels without strife and war, basically. Tylenol did it to get everybody to buy the new bottles. Scale skyrocketed. Well, I guess you could say that, but that's 2020 hindsight, because at the time, Johnson & Johnson could have never existed again. I think it was Johnson & Johnson. They could, Procter & Gamble, one of the two, whatever it was, they could have never existed if they would have handled it poorly. But I think that, well, the things I've seen, kind of like business things that have cited it as an example, cited as a successful example of a company doing something, or I guess acting in a way that had positive conclusions or consequences for them.
It's a good example of sometimes bad things can happen, and the company's response to it makes the people like it even more.
Well, exactly.
Before the problem.
It was a definite opportunity for not just the company to fail, but for like the concept of prepackaged medicines and foods to be available. Like say, it could have turned into, who knows, if it would have been spun a different way or people would have interpreted a different way. Maybe we would be going to, like in the olden days when you went to a pharmacist and they literally just put all the powders together in front of you or whatever, and you had to wait in line and you wouldn't get a pill. You get a little envelope of all the powders and you'd have to put that in water, drink it. Like, that's, if you really want to know that the ingredients are pure.
Yeah, before they were a chemist.
Well, before they were trusting to have all that happen, off-site in a building somewhere, and then cost effectively, so that you could get the little result that you wanted in a package of 60 for the same price it would get you for your pharmacist to make one dose. I'm assuming is what that level of comfort or that level of unawareness where we let that be taken away from our view. I mean, trust me, we wouldn't have anything if we wanted to be aware of how clean things were, or like how healthy, or how just be aware of the process. We wouldn't have any of the stuff we have, right? We'd have a much different economy, and towns would look different. I don't think we're going to go that crazy different, though. I don't think we need to. I think it's just a bunch of people are going to hopefully realize that, yeah, we just had a giant hiccup. The whole world got rained out, and we didn't stab each other in the rain. We didn't kill each other. Nobody stuck pillows over each other's faces. We're going to come out of it and hopefully help each other and put each other's canopies back up, and get the market back to normal, and then maybe appreciate our weekends with the family a little bit more. I mean, think about the bonding of families right now. I see a couple of funny posts like, oh, we're on each other's nerves, or like blah, 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 we never knew. But yeah, kids are learning how their parents deal, all day long. Like they know what their parents are like, what their parents' personalities are, and not the dad who comes home after work, or the mom that comes home from her job as being a big, fancy executive of an international business and doesn't have time for her kids when she gets home. But instead, they get to see the constant calls, or the idiot employees, and the reason that their parents are stressed, or maybe the parents, there's all kinds of stuff that's going to come out of it. And that experience, that common experience, 2 years from now, remember that time we had the Corona vacation, or whatever people are going to call it, the Corona break, or the Corona family time. I don't know, what do you call it when you have your whole family together for 2 months? Nobody's ever done that ever. That's never even happened. They don't even do that in Alaska, right?
Right. Like there's a bunch of kids that are really getting to know their parents, which is a really good thing. I mean,
The brothers and sisters.
You can only play so many video games and watch so many TV shows. So now they're like doing old school stuff from when we were kids, like putting a puzzle together.
That's the thing. Like, when we were kids, we never hung out with our older brothers and sisters, and we never hung out with our younger brothers and sisters. We all knew each other, and we knew each other because we were in school together, right? But now you don't get to go hang out with your friends who are in 6th grade with you. You go hang out with your brother and your sister or whatever. So imagine, like, this has never happened. There's never been a time, maybe, I don't know, World War II or something, when like the world kind of shut down for 4 years. We look at this like, we've been off wait for 4 weeks. World War II was 4 years, right? The Civil War was 6 years. Vietnam was 8 years. Like, we don't know any kind of real long-term anything. But aside from those things, when is in recent memory has anybody ever had 2 months with their kids or with their brothers and sisters? Like, aside from a road trip, maybe you're barely with your brothers. And I've never been with my brothers and sisters more than an hour or something at a time, ever. Period. Even like you count like sleeping in the same room, asleep or something. So and even relationships, like wives and husbands and stuff. Often you all get to hang out together all day long. Never, right? Maybe a day or two at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when it all comes out. And the stir crazy versus get out and visit versus, I guess, the being stir crazy and wanting to go out and experience versus how much money you got to do that versus if you want to go do that, if you're scared to go do that or not. All that stuff's going to be interesting. There might be a new thing called a Corona timeout or something where people appreciated it so much they start rescheduling their shit to work from home a month every year. And maybe they
a lot of that where a lot of businesses are going to figure out that their employees can in fact get work done at their home with their kids and everything. And production didn't go down that much, but you're going to retain employees a lot more and you don't need that big ass office.
Yep.
But then what do we do with the big skyscrapers downtown everywhere in the world?
Well, it's not like if one business goes under, nobody re-rents that thing. So everybody just shuffles, and all those businesses just incorporate the appropriate size business for what they're doing. But then a lot of those garages move to strip centers and that kind of thing, I suspect. You know, something that was a machine shop like me. I'm sitting here thinking, you know, my embroidery machine's about to crap out. You know, if I was really into making patches, I might upgrade to a bigger machine and jump to a strip center or jump to somebody's garage, like rent an actual garage out or rent. Right. I don't know. Man, there's all kinds of stuff. I don't want to keep talking all night. So we're losing viewers and nobody's really saying much, but appreciate you jumping in and Dead Horse jumping in. He had to jump out. He has to go to work in the morning. He jumped out a little earlier, kind of went all over the place tonight, but the goal is to chat about guns. Obviously, nobody's chatting about anything other than the situations, the global situations of the day. We have to panic. So, of course, we're spending our attention on that to the most part. But hopefully it was something worth listening to. We do get people listening while we're live. You know, we try to go live every weeknight at midnight. But if you're listening to this in the future, leave us some comments so we know you're out there. If you're listening to us on iTunes, super critical. Because if I don't hear comments from iTunes, I'll just quit doing it. It's actually a lot of extra work. And I don't really care about growing the show. But if we can reach out there to people and find more like-minded folks to have conversation, that's what it's all about. So if you're listening to iTunes and you are part of this conversation just in a one-sided way, normally, but let me know so that we can continue to do it. Otherwise, like I say, we will put our efforts, our time into other things. With that being said, thanks, Woods, again for jumping in. Thanks, Pink, for being out there. And Ozzy and Justin. And so I'm right there. Ozzy. Knives, of course. For people that don't know, unless something's changed, Knives did get out of where he was. So he's in good shape from what I understand. Good to hear. Got Bishop's out there. I'm missing people. Justin. And that's the reason I use the Pato, is because I can click on people like that. So if you want to be part of the show, join us weeknights at midnight. Be back to pick you up later.